Part 31. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 301. Wenbin, I asked you to build that container hotel before. How did it go? After Li Yuan drove Song Jiajia away, he continued to make phone calls. There are many things that, given his current status, he should not be concerned about. For example, he discussed with Ho Wenbin and his group last year to build high-end and low-end hotels. High-end hotels will have to wait until real estate prices come down. Low-end hotels are easy to make, similar to capsule hotels and youth hostels. They are all located in the suburbs of big cities. Whether you are driving or cycling, you can find a cheap place to stay. Container hotels are one of these businesses, and they are a very small investment. Li Yuan usually doesn't bother to ask about this matter. It's like he is a super rich man who cares all day about whether the price of eggs has increased. This project is just a supplement to high-end hotels. The supply chain system is prepared in advance, and it doesn't cost much money at all. 500 container hotels, including a central kitchen, cost less than 10 million in total. And there are only tourists around major cities. Only 20 cities across the country meet the standards. But now, Li Yuan had to ask, and he felt more at ease after knowing the result. He had just put the mask machine and melt-blown cloth into use. Even though there were signs of it at the end of December, he still didn't dare to move. Because if you move in advance, there will be conspiracy theories. He only started to take action after the situation intensified recently. At this time, many other capitals were also taking action, so it didn't seem abrupt. It's just that they can't quickly get mask machines and melt-blown cloth. The overall construction has been completed, but more than half of it has not been connected to electricity. There is also a container manufacturing company we acquired that has some excess production capacity. There are currently more than 50,000 containers piled there. I would like to ask, let me know what you should do next. Li Yuan paid for these businesses and they were responsible. These are what they are best at, network operations and process rules. They have grown up in this environment since childhood. They can even control the efficiency, and can do it with extremely fast efficiency or extremely slow efficiency. If we continue to produce and there is no room left, we will rent another place. Next, I plan to open no less than 500 container hotels across the country. This production capacity is not enough. Li Yuan did not say that container prices will be very expensive in the future. The current cost of a container is $1,000. After June next year, it will be speculated to $40,000 per container. He continued, the electricity must be connected as soon as possible. It must be completed within half a month. The central kitchen must also be opened. Bixen has purchased a large number of agricultural products and has begun transporting them to major kitchens. Hurry up. Good. Li Yuan added, we must pay attention to the user ecology. Price is not important, what is important is service. He feels that he is also quite bored, spending all day promoting some service concept. In fact, this thing will not make any money for another 10 lifetimes. Who is interested in a container hotel in a remote area? At most, people traveling by car can come and repair it. How much profit can that bring? In terms of medical care, he purchased ventilators, ostensibly to complete the contract he signed with Mindray Pharmaceuticals. At present, 7,000 units of the 10,000 units have been sent out, and there are still 3,000 units that have not been sent out. People don't want it. After all, if you want his, how can you have an excuse to purchase foreign products at a high price? Even if the 7,000 units are sent out, there will definitely be various reselling situations, but Li Yuan can't control it. After talking to Ho Wenbin, Li Yuan called Zhang Yuling again. Fortunately, Zhang Yuling went back early. It was not like he could only stay in Zhangzhou. After all, those few days after the New Year were very important. Once he went back, he would not be able to come back. Another point is that he comes into contact with a lot of people every day, and he is worried that if something goes wrong with him, he will bring trouble to the whole village when he goes back. Daughter-in-law, you haven't gone out these days, have you? Zhang Yuling, no, it's just that dad is a little bit dissatisfied. You have to endure any complaints. I'll call him later. Did something happen? I don't know, there's nothing wrong with being careful. When will your husband come back? It's almost time. I'll go back after the holidays in a few days. Li Yuan quickly hung up the phone and called Li Wanhe. He knew that many people couldn't stay at home, but he had a trump card against his father. With just one sentence, Li Wanhe was told to stay at home. It's very simple. Congratulations to Lao Li for having a grandson again. Li Wanhe trembled when he heard this, because the principle in his bones told him that he could not leave his children outside. But there was no way to take it home. What to do? He can only ask Li Yuan for money. If you want money, Li Yuan will do whatever he says. Another point is that after Li Yuan said it, he would feel that the old Li family felt even more sorry for Zhang Yuling. Finally, Li Yuan told him about the respiratory disease and asked him not to run around so as not to infect the pregnant woman. He was already very careful. After all, Zhang Yuling also had children, and there were 2 younger ones in the village. I just go for a walk at the entrance of the village every day and rarely interact with outsiders. Now that Li Yuan said this, he no longer even thought about walking around. Just stay at home and take care of the children, and be kinder to Zhang Yuling. Li Yuan then called Zhou Ranran and then Xu Yanlin. This is considered a daily task. After all, this stage is very delicate. Not enough attention has been paid to it, and policies have not been formulated yet. However, there has been a rush to buy masks on the market. N95 is hyped up to 40 to 50 yuan a piece, and the cost is only 30 cents. Yu Yu and Yao Yingsong have all been transferred back by Li Yuan. Yu Yu is in charge of Bixin Mall, and Yao Yingsong is in charge of the production of protective clothing and masks in Qinghe County. Because there are sufficient instruments and equipment and sufficient raw materials, production is very efficient. N95 and medical surgery are basically produced at the same time. Most of the processes are done by machines, and there are not many processes that need to be done manually. So we hired hundreds of people, working in 2 shifts, to maximize production. The salary of employees is definitely not low. The starting salary in a small county is also 16,000, and Li Yuan will provide some subsidies in the future. Although I have no skills, working almost non-stop for 12 hours is still very tiring. In this way, the time came little by little to January 19th, and there were only 5 days left before the Chinese New Year. Finally, the time has come, and it will be synchronized across the country on January 23rd. This was also the first time that the horror of this incident was officially announced to everyone. Suddenly, everything on the market started to be snapped up. Bixin Mall made the official announcement immediately. Users who register with their real names can receive free living packs, which include 50 masks, 2 bottles of disinfectant, a 10 kilograms bag of rice, and 5 kilograms of potatoes, radish, cabbage, and celery each. Generally speaking, the value of this living bag is very low. A mask is only 1 yuan a piece, a bottle of disinfectant is only 5 or 6 yuan, rice is only 40 or 50 yuan, and those vegetables are only 30 or 40 yuan. The total was less than 200 yuan. But it is very expensive now. Not to mention N95 masks, even ordinary ventilation masks now cost more than 10 yuan each. At this time, everyone on the entire network who receives the message will become the tap water of Bixin Mall and spread it everywhere in the group. The first batch of certified people got the goods that afternoon. Those who certified that night also received the goods the next morning. Because Li Yuan had already started delivering goods to major warehouses, and all he delivered were in stock. At the same time, the rest of the goods in Bixin Mall are also in reserve. Many people will add some oil, salt, seasonings, or other vegetables and meat when they see the goods delivered to their doorsteps so quickly. Because of the emergence of this incident, many people have no energy to pay attention to other things. It wasn't until Bixin started delivering supplies all over the world that everyone realized that Li Yuan, the richest man, still had a strong presence. When they paid attention to Qingtian capital, they found that before they knew it, the scale of Qingtian capital had exceeded 400 billion. Yesterday, A shares were already on holiday. Li Yuan did nothing else in the last 10 trading days but arranged for Guo Meng to put all the money on his books into the pharmaceutical industry. In the last 10 trading days, pharmaceutical stocks have performed well, but few have closed the market, and many people have not realized how big this matter is. I just think it is a small-scale theme hype. Since the 19th, Zhang Yuling's phone calls to Li Yuan have not stopped. "Husband, when will you come back? Is it serious in Zhangzhou?" "Well, we're not allowed out now." "Then I'll find someone to pick you up." "No, I still have something to do here. Just stay at home and I'll make a video call with you when I'm done these days." After Li Yuan finished speaking, he hung up the phone. The phone call between Yu Yu and Yao Yingsong is very important. Yu Yu's call came. "Boss, no one on our side dares to deliver goods now, and they are not willing to double the salary." "Then increase the salary, triple the salary. If triple is not enough, then quadruple it. If someone leaves, immediately find an agency and contact some part-time people to come over. Remember, the data is better connected with Bixin. Every living package there can't be any problems." "Understood." However, the goods from Manager Yao are not very lucky. Recently, the transportation capacity has been greatly restricted, and the whole country is frantically squeezing transportation capacity. Then ask employees to drive. A van can also pull many people there. Arrange more drivers and get them there as soon as possible within a few days. Yu Yu finally whispered, "Boss, is the price too high?" From Yu Yu's point of view, even if Li Yuan doesn't want to make money, he can still sell at a guaranteed capital. But everything is given away. He knew the situation of Bixin Mall. There were more than 30 million orders on the first day, and the number increased to 180 million on the second day. "I can't deliver it, I really can't deliver it." The couriers had no rest at all in the past few days. Yu Yu asked the leaders of each warehouse to directly hand out cash in order to stimulate everyone to work overtime. Li Yuan also has costs. The cost of 100,000 couriers and intermediate transportation links is not low. With just over 200 million copies, Li Yuan will lose at least 10 billion. This is still the cost price. According to the market price, it is more than 30 billion. And it's not just this, there will be more to come. Li Yuan's agricultural assistance plan purchased agricultural products worth more than 1 billion yuan, including 80 cents for potatoes, 30 cents for radishes, 70 cents for celery, and 40 cents for cabbage, occupying half of the dozens of warehousing centers across the country. At first he thought he was going to rot in the warehouse. Now, from a financial perspective, it might as well be bad. It can only be said that Li Yuan was lucky, he happened to encounter an opportunity to give it away. He couldn't say that Li Yuan had premeditated it, and even if he thought of it, he would never say it out of his mouth. Li Yuan smiled and said, "What price? Do you care about the price when serving our customers?" In fact, according to the feedback from our couriers, many people do not need these at home, and a large part of them are certified by several members of the family at the same time, and each family is allocated several packages. What does it matter? By the way, how is the tablet production situation at Honor? We have almost 200,000 units in reserve now, but production capacity may be limited. Let them work overtime to produce more and expand their production capacity. Then the cost will be borne by me. The next online class will sting the self-esteem of many people, so Li Yuan decided to deliver tablets as well. He got it at cost price, but on average, the price of each tablet is around 1,000 yuan. He can't use a configuration that's too rubbish. Then, should I borrow money from the bank? Well, borrow it. Qingtian Group owes a lot of money. Counting the 200 billion borrowed from Tangjianjun, the total debt is close to 350 billion. The logistics and warehousing center was built with borrowed money, and the automobile production line was built with borrowed money, including the current personnel salaries. Okay, I'll contact the bank then. By the way, the supply of masks is insufficient. The delivery address belongs to the same family. Except for the first batch, only 10 will be given in each subsequent pack. Priority is given to ensuring quantity. Clear. This kind of scene happens many times almost every day, because many decisions are particularly important at this time, and it is not easy for you to make the decision directly. And Li Yuan made too many enemies by doing this. Bixin Mall gives them away for free. A family of 5 can definitely get enough. Will anyone in the mall buy it? Can things be sold on other platforms? Especially those who take the opportunity to stock up and prepare to resell to make a fortune, how can they hate Li Yuan to death? In many places, I saw the couriers from Bixin Mall refusing to let me in at all. Even their couriers were beaten up. He will write these in the report and will not call to bother Li Yuan. At this time, Li Yuan hung up the phone and called Song Dalong. For Song Dalong, this period of time was both painful and happy. The pain is that the stock price has plummeted, but the happiness is that the price of pork has skyrocketed. The unit price of pigs for slaughter can reach 36 yuan per kilogram, and pork can now be sold for more than 30 yuan per kilogram on the market. The performance of Song's shares will definitely skyrocket. Especially recently, stocking up has become popular, and their pork sales here have gone crazy. Seeing Li Yuan's phone number, he quickly answered the call. No one can refuse to communicate with a big boss like Li Yuan, and Song Dalong still wants to continue to get close to Li Yuan. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 302. Song Dalong happily answered Li Yuan's call, but after chatting for a few words, his face became a little unnatural. Because Li Yuan wants to buy pork from him and hopes that he will give it at cost price. Along with the rise in pork prices, feed prices have also skyrocketed. The market is this market. When pork prices fall, feed prices do not fall. Pig farming is in a loss cycle most of the time, and it is expected to make a fortune during the profit cycle. The pig production capacity in his hands is limited, and selling it to Li Yuan at cost price means that that part is no longer profitable. Mr. Li, how much do you need? How many more do you have, Mr. Song? I think I want them all. Song Dalong. Co-writing means that he doesn't make any money, right? Pork prices have only risen for less than half a year. Based on previous cycles, we can still make money for at least another half year. You can even make money at the tail end of the market for another half a year. It's too late to expand the scale now. Although Song's shares have received a lot of funds since the listing, the scale has already been expanded, but who doesn't like to make a little more? The price of the stock is related to his worth, while the company's profits are related to the money he can control. The money at his disposal is his. If it were someone else, he would definitely reply, "Are you crazy? Let me lose nearly 2 billion in profits?" But it was Li Yuan who said this, and he didn't dare to reply like this. Mr. Li, we are not outsiders. Let me tell you the truth. The current cost of Song's shares is 23 yuan per kilogram, and the price of live pigs is 36 yuan per kilogram. This is what Song's shares have been waiting for several years. The only chance of the year. Soon, Li Yuan said, "Okay, I'll buy it at the market price. I want all the next production capacity of Song's shares." Song Dalong. He suddenly felt a little embarrassed. Li Yuan wants to bet so much in one breath, which is equivalent to locking in profits for him. Mr. Li is too polite. "It's not our turn to use the market price. I can give you a 15% discount. Just use the 15% discount. I know that your financial market also has something called block trading. The model is basically this discount. This is already the biggest loss Song Dalong can accept. But it is not considered a loss. With the order, he can continue to expand production capacity with confidence. Even if he starts to grow now, he can still enjoy the end of this round of market conditions. Without Li Yuan's order, he would not dare to expand. Then thank you, Mr. Song. I will ask for it after the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, and someone will contact you then. Okay, no problem. After hanging up the phone, Song Dalong took a breath. It really takes courage to reject Li Yuan. And he knew that Li Yuan's Bixin Mall had lost a lot of money recently, and supplies were being given away for free all over the country, and the supplies were all scarce. Maybe Li Yuan wanted to save some money in this area, which he could completely understand. It's just that he really can't take out the entire Song family's shares. If this round of profits cannot be made, when the pork down cycle comes, Song's shares will not have enough cash flow to support it. He called Song Jiajia because Song Jiajia said that she was working overtime and would not be able to come back. Moreover, Zhang Zhou is no longer allowed to go out. Even if she doesn't work overtime, she won't be able to come back. "Jiajia, have you eaten today? You don't know how to cook. Why didn't you come back earlier?" "Dad, who said I can't cook? I'm not hungry anyway, so don't worry. Then remember to pick up something from that Bixin Mall. I heard that they have a big warehouse in Zhangzhou and can deliver it to you. Be sure to pay attention to safety. If you have anything to say to your family, if you really can't, I'll use Let's Make some connections and bring you back." Song Dalong didn't know that Song Jiajia was comparing her feelings, because Song Jiajia never said anything. Although content related to Jushin Media and Bixin appeared on the internet, and Song Jiajia's name occasionally appeared, he either didn't see it, or he didn't care if he saw it. General Manager Song Jiajia? Do you have anything to do with your own daughter? My daughter is just a little girl who has just graduated from college, and she is still living a lifeless life. How can she be in charge of such a large company? Oh, I understand. Didn't you just call me yesterday? You called me suddenly today. Something must have happened, right? I just don't trust you. Oh, then I'm fine. I'll hang up first. No, 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 I still have something to tell you. Li Yuan just called me and asked me to sell Song's shares to him all the next production output at the cost price. I didn't agree and only gave him a 15% discount. I'm just here to ask you, do you and Li Yuan still have any drama? If so, I will sell it at the cost price, and the money I lose will be used as your dowry. Song Jiajia. She didn't understand why Li Yuan wanted so much pork. And Li Yuan would never go to someone to negotiate the price in person. Does this match his identity? It may seem that the amount is not small, but in fact, for Li Yuan, it is a very small transaction. Before and after, the price difference is at most more than 10 to 2 billion. Dad, I think you should give him the cost price. His Bixin Mall is up and running. Even if there is a pork downturn in the future, he can help you maintain operations and won't make you unable to sell. Besides, you have already made money for half a year, so you should make less money. Song Dalong was stunned when he heard this. When did Song Jiajia have this pattern? These are not words that a little girl should say. How do you know that Bixen Mall is up and running? Isn't that platform just for profiteering? Li Yuan has lost so much this time and will definitely have to make up for it in the future. According to domestic internet habits, who wouldn't cut it when there is traffic? Song Jiajia. She hasn't officially resigned yet, so she can see the background data. It is true that Li Yuan will lose tens of billions this time, but at least 1/6 of the traffic that came was not retained. After real name authentication, the system will automatically match the pattern based on age. The Bixen app for young people and the elderly are completely different. The growth of the entire data is visible to the naked eye. In just a few days, Li Yuan has already run an internet upstart. Anyway, based on her understanding of Li Yuan, she would definitely not kill the goose to obtain the eggs. The tens of billions of traffic fees may seem expensive, but in fact they are not that outrageous. At least there are now 30 to 40 million people active every day, and the number of registered users has exceeded 300 million. It's not comparable to Douyin, which has a daily active life of 130 million, but it's not bad either. Maybe it's the right time and the right place. She didn't want to think too much, since there was no room for her on Bixen's side anyway. Are you and Li Yuan secretly in contact with each other in private? Do you think there is still a chance, right? Then I will call him and tell him that I will pay him the cost price. Song Dalong asked again. Song Jiajia said, Dad, I have no contact with him anymore. I just stand from a business standpoint. When doing business, you can't just look at the present, always look at the back. There will be many opportunities to make money in the future. The profits you give up now, maybe I'll pay you back 10 times or 100 times. Anyway, that's what I say, you make your own decision. I have something else to do, so I'll hang up first. Song Jiajia hung up the phone and came to the kitchen. Looking at the messy kitchen, she really didn't know what to do. Her biological father must know her, she just can't cook. These days I just eat instant noodles, and I bought rice before, but didn't buy groceries. She bought a lot of vegetables at first, adding up to several kilograms. But the dish couldn't bear to be eaten at all. In addition, the food she made tasted terrible, and she didn't buy many condiments, most of which went to the trash can. What his father didn't know was that there was no way to deliver goods in Zhangzhou unless there was an approval document. Bixen Mall has not received the approval yet. It was difficult for her to even walk downstairs, let alone go to the supermarket. She cooked some rice and ate it. After all, without instant noodles, it was quite difficult for her to make a dish that could be swallowed. In this way, she held on for 2 more days, until the 24th. When her father called, she could only say that everything was fine. After all, the situation was getting more and more serious. Who knew what her father would do? He is just a small rich man who doesn't have much power at all. If something goes wrong in such a big matter, the whole family will suffer. She could not starve to death for a short period of time even if she only ate rice. I've just been in a bad state of mind in the past few days. I don't know if it's because I haven't eaten enough, or maybe it's because I'm not getting enough nutrition. I'm always feeling flustered. Today was New Year's Eve. She opened the window and couldn't hear the noise outside. Only on the internet, everyone is posting videos showing off their New Year's Eve dinners. She doesn't even want to watch the video anymore because she will be greedy after watching it. A cold wind blew in from the window, and she shivered, feeling even more uncomfortable. After closing the window and looking at the room temperature on the panel, which was still 18 degrees, she felt something was wrong. There was no thermometer at home, but when she put her hand on her forehead, she clearly felt hot. At this moment, her face turned pale. She knows very well the consequences of having a fever. She didn't know if she was, and she didn't have any medicine at home. I could only drink a large glass of hot water and then get under the quilt. She was dazed and didn't know how many hours she had slept. She was sweating all over, her consciousness was blurred, and she felt an indescribable pain all over her body. She kept turning over, trying to change into a position where she could fall asleep. But no matter how I change it, it doesn't work. She even felt like she was going to die, and the helplessness that she couldn't resist swept through her brain. It's like a drowning person struggling desperately. The more he struggles, the closer he is to death. She didn't know if a fever looked like this, because she had never encountered such a situation since she could remember. The pillow was already wet from her sweat. It's cold when I take off the quilt, and it's uncomfortably hot when I put it on. Finally, after fighting countless times, she gave up and compromised. She wanted to forget it and die, as long as she was not allowed to continue to suffer. But she found that even if she gave up, the pain was still with her. She had absolutely no idea what to do. The phone on the bedside lit up, and she subconsciously took it over. After unlocking the face, she discovered that someone had sent her a Happy New Year message. She desperately tried to see clearly who sent the message, but her brain just had no idea. In a daze, he replied with a message. Then I can no longer remember what I did. It seems like a lot has happened. It seemed that I opened the door in a daze, and then lay down in a very comfortable place, much more comfortable than the bed. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 303. After Song Jiajia woke up, she found that she was not lying on her bed. She knew exactly what her bed looked like. It was very different from this place. My head still hurts a little and my throat is a little uncomfortable, but my body is much better. Just when she was wondering where this was, the bedroom door was pushed open and Li Yuan walked in with a cup of hot water. Song Jiajia was confused. Li Yuan said, "Drink some water quickly and check your physical condition. You'd better pray that you just have a simple cold and fever." Li Yuan didn't say anything later, because he was not just a close contact. He carried Song Jiajia back. After all, there is nothing on Song Jiajia's side, but there is medicine on his side. Song Jiajia didn't think about anything else at this time, but asked, "Why am I here with you? Didn't you send me a voice message saying that you were about to die? Your voice was intermittent and weak. When I asked you where you were, you didn't say whether you were alive or dead." Li Yuan had long known that Song Jiajia also lived in this community, not just in a building. Thank you." She didn't know what she said at that time, but she knew that Li Yuan didn't need to lie to her. Li Yuan said, "Then change your clothes quickly and wait for medical staff to come and check." I don't think I brought any clothes with me. It's right next to the bed, let's make do with it first." Li Yuan left after finishing speaking. At first he thought Song Jiajia had met gangsters, who knew it would be like this. By the time he discovered it, it was already too late, so he had no choice but to get it back. After all, if you call the police and send him to the hospital, there is probably no way to treat him. Now that there is no medicine and he is too busy, there is a greater chance of cross-infection when he gets to the hospital. Anyway, there are already hundreds of couriers in Bixin Mall. Not only was the salary paid correctly, but everyone in the group was also given a subsidy of 10,000 yuan. This limit is just right. If it exceeds 20,000, someone might be infected intentionally. 10,000 yuan is not worth it compared to the salary. Li Yuan did not go to Tang Jianjun to ask for any approval, but only sent supplies to major hospitals. After all, it would indeed make money to get approval at this time, but he had no interest in making this kind of money. Just finish what you should do within the rules. With the approval, can he restrain himself and everyone under him? There are bound to be people who use their power to do other things. Now the village guards feel that they are not afraid even if the King of Heaven comes. This is the result of the power concession. There were only two people in the room. Chen Ji was at the opposite door, and Li Yuan didn't let her come over, so as not to be taken over. Li Yuan opened the door to the doctor waiting outside. He was stunned when he saw the doctor and invited a few people in. The two sides said a few words, and after a while, Song Jiajia came out. Song Jiajia was also stunned when she saw the people in the living room. Although he is wearing protective clothing and a mask, he is easy to recognize. At this moment, she truly realized the consequences of this matter. If she is real, then Li Yuan. It seems she made a mistake. It was still the kind of mistake that was simply unbearable. Why did he send a message to Li Yuan in a daze? If you send it to others, things won't come to this. Her legs were shaking a little. Li Yuan asked her to come and sit down, and then began to ask about her situation, and she answered honestly. Then she started taking samples, and a female doctor took her to the bathroom. Li Yuan also went to the bathroom, but he took it by himself. After everything was done, Li Yuan sent people away. Song Jiajia sat on the sofa and still didn't react. She had always felt that Li Yuan was very powerful, but because his identity was not so obvious when they first came into contact with him, Li Yuan himself was easier to get along with. His status as a junior made her overlook many things. The first time she saw Li Yuan after she woke up, she never thought about the consequences of having a fever at this time. Until I just saw the leading doctor appear. She didn't know much about the medical industry, and the medical experts she could name were the ones recently announced in the media. When Li Yuan closed the door and came in, she said without confidence, "Am I causing trouble for you?" "It's okay, at least I don't have any physical problems now." It would be really troublesome if there were problems. Li Yuan didn't have to lie to Song Jiajia. He didn't want to take the blame in the first place, but he was forced to do so. And he had heard that the sequelae would be serious. If it were a few centimeters shorter, this was okay. He wouldn't be afraid if it were a little shorter. After all, it was an innate advantage. But if it is completely ruined, it will be the end. The future life will not be any fun. Song Jiajia lowered her head. "There will be food in half an hour. I'm going to the study first. Call me if you need anything. It's only 12 o'clock at night, and the US stock market is still open for business." Chen Ji had originally done the work, but now he took it over and began to slowly place empty orders. The funds are currently placed in trust accounts, initially amounting to $26 billion. But after more than a year of trading, the income is not bad. On the way, when the Nasdaq index rose by 16%, we made a profit of 50 points. Currently, the Nasdaq index has risen by 33%, and the overall profit has doubled. The current total scale is $51.6 billion. Qingtian Capital's XDAI fund only earned $8 billion after a whole year, and its current total scale is $18 billion. It was much less than expected, but Li Yuan did not do much trading in person. He only gave most of the instructions, and the overall trading frequency was not enough. This data is just so-so. Li Yuan had already started short selling in October last year, but at that time, funds were mainly concentrated on Boeing, a multi-billion-dollar market with a lot of meat in it. So far, he has inserted $3 billion in short orders, which has aroused the alert of the other party. However, it has not caused much reaction, and there are no funds sniping. It seems to be characterized as pure market behavior. Because in August last year, he used Capital's funds to short Boeing, and did not let the guys on Wall Street attack him. He spent a full $500 million and doubled the leverage. Theoretically, This leverage was enough to allow Wall Street to kill itself, but they just didn't move. There is a high probability that they are no longer interested in their positions, so as not to fall into their own trap. After Li Yuan opened a short order in US oil stocks, he immediately called Qingtian Capital and asked them to follow up. China, the source of industry, has just stopped, and many data have not yet been reflected. Now is the best time to enter the market. One day later will result in much less profit. All employees of Qingtian Capital did not take any vacations this year, and they stayed with the company for food and accommodation. In a few days, he had already poured $16 billion into oil stocks, doubled the leverage, and sold $32 billion in stocks. There are still many crude oil stocks in the US stock market. There are more than a dozen companies with a market capitalization of more than $50 billion, and dozens more with a market capitalization of $10 to $20 billion, which add up to more than $1 trillion. Stock values are leveraged, similar to gold. Gold surges 10%, stock prices may rise 20% or even 30%. Then, as the industrial heart of China began to shut down, various reasons combined, the price of crude oil will plummet by 25% within a month, and most crude oil stocks will plummet by more than 60%. Similarly, Boeing has also been suspended. It is common for stocks to fall more than 20 points in a day. For crude oil futures, Li Yuan used $2 billion in principal to open a short order with 6 times leverage. This is already the limit of what can be accommodated. After all, if he hits it again, it will collapse directly. At present, in addition to investing $16 billion in principal in crude oil stocks, $3 billion in principal in Boeing, and $2 billion in crude oil futures, he still has more than $30 billion in principal left. There is no place to put this money for the time being, so I can only start shorting the circuit breaker tickets. For example, Disney has a business worth close to RMB 300 billion, uses $2 billion in principal, and doubles the leverage, so it can earn at least 60 points of profit. For example, Cisco, if the leverage is doubled, it will still have about 40 points. There are also American Express, Coca-Cola. Even though the Apple and Microsoft tickets had a circuit breaker, the decline was not very big. However, Li Yuan actually had a lot of money in his hands, because some leverage had to be used, so after the big meet he finally chose, there was still a little money left, and he got it all. Among these big votes, mosquito legs are also meat. He only needs to keep another $2 billion in funds. Everything he did was analyzed and did not completely operate according to the inherent memory. There are also many stocks that have experienced changes. For example, Nvidia has been digesting the bubble after a wave of troubles. Even if the performance is incredible, not many external funds dare to enter, and there is no time to harvest. In fact, this round of harvest is also good for Wall Street. They needed an opportunity to harvest, and a series of events such as a drop in demand for crude oil, production cuts in production areas, and a drop in crude oil prices became their helpers. They added fuel to the flames and reaped a wave of profits in the US stock market. Many people who believe in value investing and believe that US stocks are a religion have been severely cut off invisibly. In this wave, Wall Street can harvest at least $2 trillion. Then take these 2 trillion yuan, pick up cheap chips from the market, slowly pull up the stock price, and lock in those chips that are ready to move. It's like giving you a hard whip and making you cry out in pain, but before you can shout out, I put a candied date in your mouth and block your mouth. You will soon forget the pain and shout, beautiful daddy's still reliable. Most of the chips will be locked up in this way, because when the stock price is rising, they are reluctant to sell, and when the stock price is making profits, they are even more reluctant to sell. US stocks take advantage of the world's tides to harvest funds in waves. The A-share market is completely different. Markets are happening every day, and no big fund can monopolize it. It is simply not feasible to play like A-shares in US stocks. The tide of US stocks lasts longer, and the initiative lies entirely with Wall Street. I bought it when it was going up and made a lot of money. If I ran early and later found out it was still going up, would I get in? Wall Street is not afraid of you making money in the short term at all, because if the timeline is extended, you will definitely be harvested by them. Unless you make a small profit, run away, and never return to this market. For stock traders, there is another saying called rhythm. Rhythm is the most important thing. If you don't master the rhythm well, you will lose whatever you buy. Some people's rhythm is their sixth sense, while others' rhythm is their sensitivity to funds and their understanding of the market. They are all different. Li Yuan's rhythm is based on his understanding of the world from his 10 years of doing odd jobs. Li Yuan's only request now is that these guys stop causing trouble and let him earn 70 to 80 billion US dollars and leave. This is the general trend. I won't stop them from harvesting trillions of dollars, and they shouldn't bother themselves from making a small fortune. After a while, Chen Ji called. Li Yuan walked out and got the dinner plate in the corridor, without contacting Chen Ji from beginning to end. It's true that Song Jiajia hasn't had normal food for a long time, especially the food cooked by Chen Ji is delicious. The ingredients are expensive for a reason, either because they have high nutritional value or because they taste good. After eating, she felt like she was alive again, so she said what she had been thinking about for half an hour. Otherwise, I'd better go back and live there. Maybe you haven't been infected yet. If you stay here all the time. Li Yuan said, what are you thinking? Do you think it is easy for me to go to your building? I can let you go now, but as far as the situation on your side is concerned, in the current environment, are you sure you will not be hungry, death? The next 3 to 5 days will not start, but maybe 3 to 5 months. Song Jiajia stopped talking. Because if it was true as Li Yuan said, she would most likely starve to death. After eating, take a good rest and wait until the test results come out tomorrow. Li Yuan had dinner and went to work again. Song Jiajia was satisfied and confused in the living room. Satisfied, Li Yuan took a great risk to save her. It's a pity that I didn't bring my phone back, so I don't know what message I sent him. She gradually became bored and wanted to watch TV, but unfortunately Li Yuan didn't have it. All other electronic equipment seemed to be in Li Yuan's study. She was embarrassed to go to the study to disturb Li Yuan. At this time, she really wanted to have a mobile phone. I want to sleep, but I can't sleep at all. She could vaguely hear Li Yuan over there in the study, talking on the phone. A phone call lasted for a few minutes, then hung up and started again. After several hours, there was almost no interruption. At about 6 o'clock in the morning, Li Yuan walked out of the study again. Seeing that Song Jiajia was not resting, he said, "You're not sleepy, are you?" Song Jiajia replied sheepishly, "Well, maybe I slept too much before." Li Yuan took out his cell phone, handed it to Song Jiajia, and said, "Then you answer the phone for me. If it's you and Yao Ying Song, write down what they said. Someone will probably call after a while. Breakfast will be delivered and left at the door, and you can serve it yourself." "Well, okay. Well, can I go play on the computer for a while? I'm a bit bored." Li Yuan. Li Yuan went back to the study room and took out the laptop he used before. There was too much information on his desktop and it was not suitable for playing. "Just play with this notebook and don't touch the contents." Song Jiajia nodded immediately, "Yeah, I'll just read some news or watch some videos, nothing else." End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 304. After Song Jiajia got a notebook, she was no longer bored. Although the current mainstream entertainment methods are integrated into mobile phones, she can at least find something to do for herself. No matter how difficult it is, you can log into the Bixen backend and find yourself an audit job. Li Yuan doesn't have to worry about food, life is already very satisfying. After all, in this current environment, the whole country is trapped at home. But soon, she realized why Li Yuan gave her the phone. Because there are so many people calling. Yu Yu and Yao Yingsong basically called every half an hour to report the situation to Li Yuan. The main reason is that Li Yuan has to make decisions on many things. At this sensitive moment, if something happens if you take the decision without authorization, it will bring trouble to Li Yuan. There were also many calls, especially from Zhang Yuling, who Song Jiajia didn't dare to answer. What scene will happen if you pick it up? The whole network knew about the relationship between Li Yuan and Zhang Yuling. He answered the phone. Zhang Yuling asked where Li Yuan was, and then he replied, Li Yuan is already asleep. That scene feels weird just thinking about it. But for the other several calls, she didn't know who they were, and they didn't say anything substantive. She was just concerned about Li Yuan's situation. Breakfast was delivered and she opened the door, only to see a dinner plate at the door. After bringing it in, I watched some videos while eating. Bixen is currently focusing on video content, and Jushin Media is the main output direction. Because the time is still short, Jushin Media has not yet been interviewed by Douyin. Now that everyone is stuck at home, it is a perfect opportunity to output short video content. There are more and more creators on the market, and they are all competing for people. Obviously, the treatment given by Bixen is better. Douyin's playback volume is of limited value and relies entirely on advertising. As for those ads, 99% of advertisements are for cutting leaks, and they can deceive everyone. What kind of second-hand mobile phone, what kind of chat, what kind of detective, a knife of 999. Several chess and card games, including Douyin's in-depth cooperation, are full of routines. For example, a certain way, a certain J, a certain mahjong. The algorithm inside has calculated the players very well, and has trained a lot of anchors, and has tricked gamblers all over the country over and over again. And the most outrageous thing about Douyin is that as soon as midnight, he starts crazily pushing the live broadcasts of marginal women, which is bound to wipe out the few money in the pockets of otakus. Song Jiajia has been paying attention these days. The more this happens, the more pressure by XIN puts on them. Bixen rose to prominence in just a few days. Originally, this time was the best opportunity for Douyin. Even if they didn't know how to play, because their children had gone home, they would download it for their parents and give them a place to kill time. However, those children soon discovered that their parents had been deceived on Douyin. They placed orders for a bunch of inexplicable things and were guided to download various mini-games throughout the day, all in the guise of receiving red envelopes. In fact, they were procedures for inducing consumption. Some even inexplicably took on loans and opened various renewals. After watching 3 videos, there will be an advertisement. Many elderly people simply do not have the ability to distinguish advertisements. The consequences can be imagined. For the sake of advertising revenue, the creators use every possible means in their promotional slogans, including giving out thousands of red envelopes and bringing benefits to their families. After many people used it, they found that this short video program does not have any fraudulent advertisements at all, or even ordinary advertisements. Even advertisements posted by tap water will be automatically blocked by the system. This is a deep algorithm of Bixen. If you promote a big brand in a short video and say what brand of things to use, the entire video will not pass the review. After all, those big brands don't give them advertising fees, so they can get money for user promotion, so what's the point of doing mental arithmetic? Many people are simply not used to the days without advertising at first. But after using it for a few days, I found out that it was really cool. Moreover, Vixen users have benefits 1 month before registering. They can get 3 flowers for free every day. For every flower sent to a video, the video creator will receive 10 cents. This is extremely attractive to creators. Some high-quality videos in the past will be transferred to Vixen by many people, and some people can earn tens of thousands of yuan a day. Those media companies are the most well-informed. When they find that a certain video is the first to carry the largest traffic, they will naturally try their best to move resources across the entire network. Because of the second porter, the traffic will be diluted a lot. Original videos carry a higher weight. When content is not sufficient, many high-quality original contents will be quickly streamed to tens of millions of people. A video watched by 10 million people can basically guarantee a profit of 5,000 to 20,000 yuan. This is not a video with ads. There is indeed not much profit point in Vixen, but Li Yuan is really willing to provide subsidies. For example, as long as you spend 100 yuan, you can reach VIP 3. At this level, you will receive a free flower every day. Flowers can be donated to videos you like, and the creators can get money. It can be said that some people can even use this trick to make money by brushing data. 100 yuan to buy something very cost-effective, you won't suffer any loss in itself, it's equivalent to 10 cents a day, which is 36.5 yuan a year. If a family gets 10 accounts, it is equivalent to getting 3 to 400 yuan in vain. This is a very high benefit ratio. Not to mention reaching VIP 4, you will get 3 flowers every day. The further you go to the back of Vixen according to this model, the more serious the loss will be. But cultivating user habits is really powerful. In order to get flowers, the video host will compromise the quality. And small flowers can also make many people enter a financial thinking. After all, where is shopping not buying? Compare it with Vixen Mall. It's quite cost-effective here. You can buy whatever you want. You can get it for just 10,000 yuan, right? Then forget about it and buy another account. In this way, it is simple to swipe several VIP 4 accounts. Even for many people, VIP 5 is not out of reach. At that time, you can buy 2 bottles of Fission for 1,499, and you can make 2,000 yuan by changing hands. Vixen Mall does not have that much profit at all, and it relies entirely on Li Yuan as a subsidy. It's like playing a game. This game is almost like prostitution for free. However, the data obtained in the game can also be converted into money. Although it is small money, for a family, it is only a few hundred yuan, 1 to 2,000 yuan, throughout the year. But users who are accustomed to being calculated by platform algorithms cannot refuse money that is clearly given to them. They don't want to call dozens of friends for the last penny, and the result is that from 1 penny to 100 golden beans, from 1 golden bean to 100 fragments, from 1 fragment to 100 diamonds, and finally diamonds stolen by rats. There is another thing about Vixen Mall that Song Jia thinks is very good. When you buy something, you just buy something, and the marked price is not a scam. I found a gadget worth 10 yuan, and when I got in, it was 10 yuan. Rather than discovering that the item with a price tag of 10 yuan turned out to be a pendant, what I really wanted was 15.9 yuan. Searching for a keyboard is just a keyboard, instead of placing an order only to find out later that you bought a bunch of crappy keyboard caps. Price sorting is price sorting, and precise algorithms always give priority to fuzzy algorithms. Search for Fission Mutai and sort from low to high. The lowest one is 1,499, but it is official and needs to be snapped up. Search for one on other platforms and follow the order from low to high. No matter how you swipe, you won't be able to buy real wine. They are all outrageous stuff. If you search for Vuchang rice, it is Vuchang rice, not a bunch of stores that bought this keyword with advertisements. When searching for Hishan jade seed materials, the seed materials, Qinghai materials, and Russian materials all come to the back, not to mention a lot of scams using large plastics on the internet. Everything on Bixen Mall is put on the shelves by itself, and private access is not yet open at all. Even if it is opened in the future, it is impossible for those things that appear to be scams to pass the review. Regarding Li Yuan's philosophy, Song Jiajia felt that except for losing a bit too much money, everything else was fine. She was tired of seeing scam ads every day. Perhaps domestic users will start to adapt to a platform without any fraudulent advertisements. As for those guys who have taken advantage of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or the CIA, they have no place to survive in Bixen. If such an account is found, it will be permanently banned along with the ID card. There is even an algorithm in the comment area. Anyone who makes hateful remarks about the country, makes sarcastic comments about the country, without substantive evidence, or follows the trend of others, will have his account demoted. No matter how many comments he posts, only he can see them. No one else can see it. This is very troublesome and requires reviewers to make judgments bit by bit. The ones screened out by big data are more extreme. It's not that Li Yuan doesn't want people to tell the truth, he's just targeting malicious smear campaigns. It would be straightforward to point to a mobile toilet and say it is a honeycomb. Those who pull ballpoint pen refills and pull bearing steel are the industrial pearls of other countries. They should go to bed long ago. Of course, it is also straightforward to say that not buying XX is unpatriotic. The system determines that such people have no brains and do not have the ability to distinguish. What else is there to say that an unknown brand is made of domestic products? This kind of rubbish marketing vocabulary is straightforward. What's the matter with someone replacing Fishan Mutai? The same is true. If you see these junk marketing campaigns on Bixen, you will be blocked one by one, and your account will be banned directly. It will bias many elderly people who have just come into contact with the internet. Even some innocent young people. After watching the web version of the heart comparison for several hours, Song Jiajia was very satisfied with the current heart comparison. I also admire Li Yuan for being able to spend tens of billions, and may even spend tens of billions in the future to divert traffic this time. It doesn't seem to be of much benefit to him, and the benefits are completely given to all users. At this moment, Li Yuan's phone rang again. He took a look at the notes and found that the 3 characters Song Dalong stood out. Her biological father. To answer or not to answer? What does it mean when your father calls Li Yuan? Is it because no one is answering your phone? And then he was worried. Thinking of this, Song Jiajia became entangled. After waiting for a while, the phone automatically hung up. But soon, she saw a message sent. Mr. Li, I'm sorry to disturb you. The main reason is that our Jiajia cannot be contacted. She could only see this, and the rest couldn't be seen because the phone was not unlocked. When she saw these words, her nose felt a little sore. No matter at any time, my father always cares about me. I made 2 phone calls yesterday. Today is New Year's Day. I should be entertaining relatives at home, but I still can't let go of my daughter who is out there. At the risk of making Li Yuan feel disgusted, he forcefully called Li Yuan. Li Yuan's phone number cannot be called by ordinary people. Including her, she always sent messages to Li Yuan first and waited for Li Yuan to call back. A few more minutes passed, and Song Jiajia saw Li Yuan's phone ringing again. It still belongs to my father. But this time, she took it. As soon as the connection was connected, Song Dalong said pleasantly, Mr. Li, Happy New Year. I really shouldn't bother you, I just... Song Jiajia's emotions were very complicated when she heard such a humble tone. His father didn't need to make this call at all, because Li Yuan didn't care who said more or less Happy New Year. If the call was wrong, it would only make Li Yuan disgusted. Dad, it's me, Li Yuan is sleeping. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 305. Song Dalong was really anxious and got angry. I called Song Jiajia last night and several times in the morning. From the beginning I could get through but no one answered, and in the end the call couldn't be reached at all. He only has a daughter, and she is still trapped in Zhangzhou. Under the current situation, if he can't contact her again, he may have to find a way to break through. And the only person he could think of was Li Yuan. He has people he knows in Zhangzhou, but in the current situation, they are of little use. If something happens to Song Jiajia, only Li Yuan can help. On the first day of the new year, he was not even qualified to pay New Year's greetings, so he had no choice but to call Li Yuan. After all, as long as his daughter was safe, that would be fine. As a result, his daughter answered the call to Li Yuan. Jiajia, why can't you get through on your phone? Song Jiajia said, I left my mobile phone at home and didn't take it out. Oh, I understand, then I'll be relieved. Song Dalong's tone seemed to contain some secret joy. Song Jiajia said helplessly, Dad, if I say it's not what you think, would you believe it? Believe it? Why don't you believe it? Haha, normal, normal. Your tone doesn't sound normal. What's wrong with my tone? Shouldn't I be happy during the Chinese New Year? Song Dalong's thinking has completely gone out, and he can't wait to say, I will transfer all the shares of Song's shares to you immediately. In this way, others will not say that you are high-flying. He was worried about his daughter being criticized. After all, Song Jiajia really didn't have any advantages now. If you have the equity of Song's shares, you will be worth billions or even tens of billions, and few women in the country can match it. Anyway, he only has this daughter, and she will be hers sooner or later, so she can treat it as a dowry. Song Jiajia was anxious, why am I so high-spirited? He and I have nothing. Besides, the Song family's shares belong to the Song family, what are you going to do to me? Aren't you from the Song family? Then when I get married, can I still be a member of the Song family? Even Grandpa won't let you do this. Song Dalong, I have the final say now. I want to give it to you. No one can say anything. Besides, if I don't give it to you, you will only be a college graduate. How can you be worthy of Li Yuan? When the time comes, people will say what should I do if you gossip? Dad, didn't I tell you that I have nothing to do with Li Yuan? He already has a girlfriend. I don't care, it doesn't matter if you're not married. Don't worry, my family will definitely not hold you back. What others have, our family also has. Song Jiajia was too lazy to say anything else. She made an excuse that Li Yuan had many cell phone calls and hung up. Actually, she could make her attitude clearer. But she didn't know what her psychology was, and in the end she just said a few symbolic words. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Li Yuan woke up. At this time, Song Jiajia was already asleep on the sofa. There was only a thin blanket, which seemed to be thrown the wrong way and seemed a little short. Of course, it could also be that her legs are too long. The room was still very warm, basically staying above 18 degrees. Li Yuan came over, picked up his cell phone, and contacted Chen Ji. But this time Chen Ji came directly. Li Yuan has received the test results on his mobile phone and already knows that the cause of Song Jiajia's fever is a gastrointestinal infection caused by food poisoning. The principle of fever is that something is inappropriate in the body, and the body's own immunity is at work. It is equivalent to the white blood cells in the body fighting, and the heat needs to be dissipated through the body. If the temperature is too high and does not cool down for a long time, it may cause brain problems. There is essentially no cure for colds, and fever can be suppressed with medication or physical cooling. After Chen Ji came in, she saw Song Jiajia sleeping on the sofa and whispered, The beauty is hidden in the golden house, no wonder you have to take such a big risk. Li Yuan took the dinner plate and said, let's go to the study and eat. The test results made Li Yuan relieved. He couldn't get sick now, as getting sick would affect the subsequent operations. US stocks have fallen slightly recently. After all, global uncertainties have increased a lot, and something else is fermenting. Even Wall Street may have smelled the risks and is making plans secretly. For Wall Street, they don't mind short-term black swans. As long as they make good use of them, it is an opportunity for them to make big money. What they can't stand is not making money. When he came to the study, Li Yuan cleared a space on the desk, and Chen Ji also moved in a chair. Currently, Chen Ji sleeps at night and still prepares 3 meals a day. While eating, Chen Ji said, "Is that Song Jia?" The general manager of Jushin Media and Bixin. Huh? How do you know? I've seen the photos. Li Yuan nodded, well, yes. Chen Ji said with emotion, it's quite impressive. A little girl who has just graduated can do the step better than most people. At least I think she is better than you. Li Yuan also agrees with this sentence, she has a good vision, but she doesn't have much experience. She can do well if someone gives her guidance. Chen Ji smiled and said, this is normal. After all, she is a newcomer, unlike you, who has so much experience. You can guide her more, and when she becomes proficient in it, she can come up without your teaching. What are you saying? Huh? Isn't that what you're talking about? Chen Ji blinked and defeated Li Yuan in joking for the first time. She knew that Li Yuan probably didn't have much energy to think about other things recently. He spread out all the stalls this time, and the consumption was amazing. As for the harvest, I haven't seen it yet. He gambled almost everything he had. A small win would result in a loss, a small loss would cost him half his value, and a big loss would mean he had no chance to turn around. She didn't know why Li Yuan dared to gamble so much, but the more he did this, the more attractive he became. Li Yuan smiled and said, I'm talking about work. Her execution ability is still very strong, and she has a good vision. I'm going to give her shares and keep her here. Li Yuan doesn't want older people to manage the company because those old guys have fixed ideas. No matter how experienced they are, a good company will slowly decline in their hands. Especially his own ideas, which most people simply don't understand. And she had never communicated with Song Jia, and there were very few misunderstandings at work between the two. She will analyze every decision she makes, and her synchronicity will become stronger and stronger. Chen Ji, you want to retain someone, but you still need shares? Just radiate your personality charm. I believe she won't refuse. Work is work and life is life. It's not good to get them confused. What about me? Is it work or life? Li Yuan. He finally said, calculate life. Chen Ji rolled her eyes and said, fortunately, you didn't say it was a job, otherwise I might have given up my job and not worked for you. What won't you give me? Chen Ji. She began to eat in silence. After all, he still wanted to show off his face and couldn't answer Li Yuan's words. Soon, the two of them finished their meal, and Chen Ji said, I know girls very well. If she falls asleep on the sofa, it means she is not defensive about you. It's up to you to seize the opportunity. Li Yuan said, do you think there will be any results between me and a girl from a normal family? I am doing well as I am now, and I don't want to break the current balance. All needs can be met, and my restlessness has nowhere to go. Isn't it still there? You. Me? I don't have 178 long legs. Chen Ji said while packing her things. After cleaning up, he left here. Li Yuan did not go out in the study. He didn't pay attention to what Chen Ji said at all. Something else was grabbing his attention right now. He has feelings, but not much. In his current life, feelings occupy a very small proportion. No matter if anyone around him wants to leave, even Zhang Yuling, he can accept it. When reviewing US stocks, he found that many funds were moving very abnormally. The US dollar is still in the release stage, but it is obvious that funds are beginning to push downwards. Perhaps it was not that his short order was not noticed, but that Wall Street was also proceeding at the same time and did not take his short order to heart at all. If this is the case, then he can definitely play a little bigger. No matter what, let's test it out first. Li Yuan still has a large amount of funds in his hand that has not been spent. There are many institutions willing to provide leverage, because many institutions make this money. The most important thing in the market is the lack of funds, but the lack of opportunities to fill them in. Li Yuan decided to increase leverage, especially since all the 30 constituent stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average had large market capitalizations, and doubling the leverage was not too much. And his remaining funds, doubled the leverage, is equivalent to more than $30 billion US. Qingtian Capital has just begun its layout, and it is still early. In 1 week, A shares will open. A shares are also the most important. A black swan event will break out into a super gold pit, and then the entire A share market will take off. The reason is that while global industrial output is declining, China's industrial output is growing rapidly, which brings unparalleled performance expectations. Although Li Yuan doesn't value investing, the general environment of an improving economy is adaptable to any scenario. Pharmaceutical-related, semiconductor-related, photovoltaic, lithium battery, automobile and related industrial chains. Li Yuan admires the relevant think tanks very much. They can turn defense into offense at any time and turn disadvantage into advantage. What about the so-called first island chain and the second island chain? A Burmese backhand and a breakthrough is imminent. The beautiful country was so frightened that it quickly ordered its loyal dog to tear up the Panmunjom agreement, which was just a desperate tactic. What he has to do is very simple. In the process, he should seize as much wealth as possible and draw as much blood from others as possible without affecting the overall situation. As long as he has US dollars in his hands, he can just buy commodities like crazy when the US dollar starts to raise interest rates. The US dollar tide is to reduce the liquidity of the US dollar by raising interest rates. When interest rates are cut, large-scale purchases of global commodities will drive up the prices of commodities, making profits from it and offsetting the losses caused by the interest rate hikes. Everyone knew they would do it, but only if they had the money. The interest rate hike cycle is so fierce, how many people can handle it? The exchange rate has plummeted. Don't even think about how many dollars there are in the country. Even though everyone knew that buying commodities could make money at that time, few countries had the money to buy them. China has the money to buy, but there is no way to buy more, otherwise the Western media will accuse them of being unethical and disregarding the life and death of small and medium-sized countries around the world. After all, they have raised commodity prices, and there will definitely be many people who cannot afford to eat. China will not leave them any leverage in this regard or give them an excuse to attack, so they generally only buy a small part to hedge the overall risk. But Li Yuan is not afraid. As long as he doesn't transport the grain to the country, there are plenty of places to store it abroad. Thinking of this, he called Gu Dongsheng. But it didn't get through. Half an hour later, Gu Dongsheng came back. I could hear a little noise from Gu Dongsheng's side. Lao Gu, can you still get used to staying there? At this time, Gu Dongsheng, who was far away in Africa, grinned and said, not bad, exciting. He still had a bandage on his arm. A fight started, Li Yuan asked. You can't get anything if you don't fight. Fighting happens every day in this damn place. I'm just wondering why I haven't received any news from the country. Haha, isn't it good to live in a peaceful and prosperous age? The dispute has never stopped, I just don't want everyone to know. Okay, but I'm not a peaceful person. I like chaotic situations, so that ordinary people like me can have a chance. You just happened to call me and asked if you have any channels to get weapons. Just contact Polly. Don't drag me into it. I'm not suitable for publicity right now. Okay. Do you have enough money? Enough. If we can sell the old ones in the country, we can also make room to stockpile new weapons. After all, those old things cost a lot of money to maintain every year. I can rest assured that. Li Yuan asked, how are you getting along with Shen Tianfu? To be honest, I quite like this guy. He is much stronger than me and his methods are more ruthless than mine. In his eyes, my ideas are like playing house. Then let him come on stage. Huh? Okay, I understand. Then I will die first. Happy New Year and live well. Haha, are you kidding? When I go back, I haven't gotten my dividend money yet. After Li Yuan hung up the phone, he sighed. He could hear Gu Dongshen's discomfort, but maybe he was right. He didn't want to be an ordinary person, nor did he want to be a rich man with a little money. He liked having power in his hands. That thing will definitely cost your life. He came out and picked up Song Jiajia's memo, which recorded the information reported by Yu Yu and Yao Ying Song. This includes equipment donated to major hospitals and the status of ventilators in warehouses. Just as he expected, even though 7,000 ventilators were sent out, there were still various shortages. A large part of it is indeed in short supply, but a small part must have resold what they gave away. Mindray Pharmaceuticals even called and said it wanted to buy back Li Yuan's ventilators because their production capacity could not keep up and the demand was too high. A ventilator that was originally worth 8,000 to 10,000 yuan is now hard to buy for 50,000 yuan. Li Yuan didn't want to worry about these trivial matters and could only continue to send them. However, before each gift, the gift list will be widely publicized. In this way, people all over the country will be watching. If they dare to mess around, they must weigh it carefully. Just when I was looking through the call records, I found that Song Dalong called me more than 10 minutes ago. Obviously, it was Song Jiajia who picked it up. He thought for a while and replied to Song Dalong. After all, Song Jiajia did not record this incident. Soon, the call came through. Mr. Song, why did you call me before? Song Dalong said, it's okay, I've just heard too many donations from Qingtian Group recently. After thinking about it, I was really too small. The pigs that Mr. Li ordered didn't cost much. Yes, I can just give it to Mr. Li directly. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 306. In fact, when Li Yuan talked to Song Dalong before, he was surprised that the other party gave him a 15% discount. It takes a lot of courage to be willing to release all the profits you get. What he was thinking at the time was that Song Shares could sell him some pork at a low price, and then he would build a brand for Song Shares. From now on, Song Shares would supply Bixen Mall's pork, and no other channels would be used. He didn't want to save that little money at all, he just wanted to see if Song Dalong had that idea. As long as there is, the other party will definitely agree. Later it was proved that Song Dalong had some, but not many. It is also within Li Yuan's consideration. No cost today? Supply yourself with billions of losses? This is obviously beyond the scope of doing business and can only be due to other factors. For example, did he talk to Song Jiajia? Did you find that Song Jiajia was using her own mobile phone? And then there was an association? Song Jiajia didn't explain it either? Otherwise, This kind of thing can be easily explained. Song Jia is not the kind of girl who has no opinions at all. There are no free benefits in this world. When it was 5 or 6 o'clock, Li Yuan estimated that Song Jia would wake up soon, so he asked Chen Ji to prepare some food. He didn't need to eat for the time being. He would eat a little bit after 8 o'clock. Mainly breakfast. I didn't have breakfast today because I was too tired from being tortured by Song Jia yesterday. After all, he had to go from building number 3 to building number 1 without any direct passage. He made a big circle and walked at least 700 to 800 meters. And Song Jia is very heavy, estimated to be around 120. Song Jia was indeed hungry after waking up. I'm just too embarrassed to go find Li Yuan. She didn't know when Li Yuan got up, so she went to the study to take a look and found that Li Yuan was busy. When I was hungry, I could only drink water. After searching for a long time, I couldn't find anything to eat. The fruit is a bit cold and she dare not eat it now. But after a while, someone opened the door. Then she saw a young and matronly woman walk in with a faint smile on her face. I only heard the other party say, "Miss Song, are you hungry? Li Yuan asked me to bring you food." Song Jia was shocked. How did Li Yuan know she was awake? She never left the study room from beginning to end, and she walked around the room very quietly, for fear of making any noise. "Ah, hello, hello, thank you, thank you. Song Jia needs this food so much. The happiness of having a full meal has never been so strong. After I entered my mouth, the feeling became even stronger. The food made by Chen Ji was extremely delicious. Sister, the food you cook is so delicious. I have never eaten anything so delicious." Although this statement is not accurate, it is also her true inner feeling at this time. Chen Ji said with a smile, "Then if Miss Song wants to eat, call me. My name is Chen Ji. I am Mr. Li Yuan's housekeeper. It is my duty to serve Miss Song." Song Jia hurriedly said, "No, no, no, it has nothing to do with me, I just benefited from it." Chen Ji pretended to be confused and said, "Isn't Miss Song Mr. Li's girlfriend?" "No, no, no, it's not." "Oh, it seems that I misunderstood. When Mr. Li came back with Miss Song in his arms the night before yesterday, I saw Miss Song hugging Mr. Li and kissing him. I thought, but it doesn't matter. I have been very free recently. Miss Song, just tell me what you want to eat, I have plenty of ingredients prepared over there." Chen Ji's words directly made Song Jia blush. Damn it! She was completely unimpressed. Holding Li Yuan keen? That scene makes me feel embarrassed just thinking about it. At that time, my whole body was very hot, as if I had touched an ice-cold place, and then I rubbed it. Well, maybe I'm confused because of the fever. Yeah, that's normal. But Mr. Li was obviously anxious at the time. He stayed by Miss Song's bedside all night, cooling Miss Song's temperature, giving her medicine, and even wiping Miss Song's body. Song Jia. In fact, Chen Ji didn't know about it at all, and Li Yuan didn't notify her at all, let alone let her enter the room. But bullshit, she is good at this kind of thing. When she finished saying these words, she found that Song Jia showed no obvious resistance, and she already had an idea in her mind. Speaking of which, I have been with Mr. Li for a year or two, and I have never seen Mr. Li treat any girl so well. Ah. Yes, really. Although Song Jia's voice was a little unnatural, it also sounded joyful. Chen Ji said, "Of course, Mr. Li is different from others. His main energy has always been on work. Although due to some reasons, he has to come into contact with some girls, as a life manager, I can still feel that Mr. Li didn't pay too much attention to others, but Ms. Song was obviously panicked when she saw Mr. Li. At this time, Song Jia just felt that her whole brain was not full. Li Yuan panicked? Then could it be that his cold attitude when he saw him was just an act? Chen Ji saw Song Jiajia's expression and said with a smile, "Actually, Mr. Li has never been in love. He knows nothing about the relationship between men and women. Sometimes he is very shy and not good at expressing. It's like he likes a certain dish sometimes. But you just don't say it, you have to let me take the initiative to test it out. Love is the same as cooking. If I don't take the initiative, how can I stay with Mr. Li and be his life steward? There are many people in this position. They are all greedy." At this time, Song Jiajia was completely confused. There is even a feeling of numbness in the scalp. Does Li Yuan really like himself? Why have I never felt it? Because he's not good at expressing himself? Looking back on what happened in the past, when Song's shares were at their most dangerous, Li Yuan forcibly raised the sign. However, this time raising the sign did not actually bring him much benefit. Compared with Qingtian Capital's income, it was almost negligible. With so much money locked up, he never said a word. Even after raising the sign, he didn't look for himself. Simply helping? He treated his roommates according to the contract, which included a lot of liquidated damages, but he showed no mercy at all. He was a little more relaxed about Lu Hao, but not much. It was normal, not a little harsh. Later, his father was cold at the banquet, and he only sent a text message, so he did not hesitate to call him in to support his father. Even during the hype about their relationship, he took a few photos with her without even holding hands, but just pulled his arm a few times and held his shoulders a few times. Then, he sat down and talked about his concerns. It was obvious that he had discovered a problem and wanted to go home quickly to avoid the big quagmire of Zhangzhou. But I thought I was going to be kicked out, so I didn't choose to go back. Think about it again, on New Year's Eve, why didn't anyone else send him a Happy New Year, but Li Yuan did? Does Li Yuan's identity need to be disclosed to others immediately? He should wait for others to post first, and then reply with one sentence, and others will be happy for a long time. Somehow, the image of a cold CEO appeared in Song Jiajia's mind. It's like a scene in an idol drama. You obviously like it, but you just pretend to be aloof. When something really happens, even if you can usually plan everything under the sun, you will still panic. As for why Li Yuan was a scumbag before? In fact, it's easy to understand. At that time, his career had just started and he needed to rely on external relationships and connections, otherwise everything would not have gone so smoothly. Maybe Wen Yuxian's family forced him to be with Wen Yuxian. After all, he was handsome and capable, so it would be abnormal to look down on him. As for Xu Yanlin, I'm not sure about this, but in just 2 months, Li Yuan didn't have any more scandals with Xu Yanlin throughout last year, and they probably broke up. Maybe you're angry with yourself? On purpose? Not to mention Zhang Yuling. She knew Zhang Yuling's background better than many people, especially since her father had explained it specifically. When Li Yuan reaches this level, he will inevitably need some official endorsement. Being with Zhang Yuling is also a political need. Can he be blamed for this? He works very hard. He is obviously the richest man, but he still has to stay up late and work every day. She suddenly realized that blaming Li Yuan for being a scumbag was simply the biggest misunderstanding of him. Regardless of whether he likes himself or not, he really has nothing to say to himself. As a college graduate, how could he sit in the position of vice president of Bixin? And now he didn't explicitly say that he was letting him go, but he was just making up the plot in his head. In fact, he didn't want to cause trouble for himself. There was nothing he had done this week that was not heartbreaking. If I were still comparing myself to others, I would definitely not be able to do this kind of thing well. What would be the final consequences? Not only will you suffer, but you will also make things worse. He was feeling sorry for himself, but he didn't realize it. He wasn't angry at all because he couldn't understand him. Just as she was brainstorming crazily, Chen Ji's voice came over again, "Miss Song, have you finished eating?" After coming back to her senses, Song Jiajia hurriedly said, "Yeah, I'm done eating." "Thank you, Sister Chen." "You're welcome. I live right across the street. Miss Song can come to me anytime if you need anything. Mr. Lee's place is still a bit boring. There are a lot of things to play in my place. Can go out?" "Yes, the test results have come out. Miss Song only has a gastrointestinal infection caused by food poisoning. She will recover in a few days. However, it is still under martial law outside. It may not be convenient to go downstairs. I have to trouble Mr. Lee to find someone." "Okay." Song Jiajia quickly waved her hand, No, I won't go downstairs." She didn't want to cause any more trouble to Li Yuan. At this time, Li Yuan came to the living room. After seeing Chen Ji, she said, "Sister Chen, I feel a little uncomfortable." He just took a shower, after all, he didn't take a shower last night. Then I heard the conversation between Chen Ji and Song Jiajia. I didn't hear it from the front, but I could tell from the back that this Chen Ji was fooling the little girl again. So, he made an excuse. Chen Ji put down what she was doing to clean up the dishes and said, "Mr. Lee, go and lie down on the bed first. I'll wash my hands and I'll be right back." "Li Yuan. You can really pretend." After Li Yuan left, Chen Ji said to Song Jiajia, "Mr. Lee has been working very hard in the past few years and has a lot of uncomfortable areas on his body. He always needs me to give him massages. Does Miss Song want to go there later, see? After I finish massaging Mr. Lee, Miss Song can also try it." Song Jiajia, "Am I suitable?" She didn't know why, she just wanted to watch it. "That's appropriate. I'm going to wash my hands first." Soon, Chen Ji washed her hands. After wiping them clean, she winked at Sister Song and asked Song Jiajia to follow her. At this time, Li Yuan had taken off his shirt and was lying on the bed. "I was flirted with by Chen Ji in the afternoon, but I was too hungry at that time, and there were still some things I had not dealt with. But it's fine now. I just took the opportunity to ask Chen Ji what he wanted to do." As a result, he saw Song Jiajia coming with him. Before he could speak, Chen Ji said, "Mr. Lee, Miss Song said she wanted to come over and have a look. She also wanted to learn and give Mr. Lee a massage in the future." "Li Yuan. Is there anything wrong with your mind?" "No, you go out first." Li Yuan said something to Song Jiajia. No matter how shameless he was, there was no way he could do anything in front of Song Jiajia. Chen Ji continued, "Mr. Lee, this is also Miss Song's good intention." While talking, Chen Ji came to sit next to Li Yuan and quietly scratched Li Yuan's back with her fingers a few times. Song Jiajia didn't see it because her vision was blind. Li Yuan said nothing more and lay down directly. After all, it didn't matter to him. It was Chen Ji who suffered anyway. "Flirting with myself again." Song Jiajia just watched from the side. Li Yuan's figure was so beautiful. Although the muscle lines are not so clear, they are very well proportioned and look very powerful. She couldn't quite understand Chen Ji's massage techniques. "Mr. Lee, does it hurt here?" Isn't it sour in here?" While Chen Ji was massaging, she was communicating with Li Yuan. From the perspective of Song Jiajia, a complete layman, Li Yuan was full of diseases. The actual situation is that Chen Ji specially selected some places, which are the places where you will be numb even if you stamp on them. The purpose is to fool Song Jiajia, a layman. Whether it is Xu Yanlin or Anna Shen, to put it bluntly, the relationship with Li Yuan depends entirely on emotion. So far, Song Jiajia is the only one who relies on her own ability to stay by Li Yuan's side. Her purpose was simple. If she couldn't fit into Zhang Yuling's circle, or Zhou Ranran's circle, she would create her own circle. It's just that this circle is a bit weak and needs someone stronger. Song Jiajia is the best choice. There is definitely some difficulty, but how will you know the result if you don't try it? Almost half an hour later, Song Jiajia found that Li Yuan fell asleep so comfortable. Chen Ji whispered to Song Jiajia, "Miss Song, Mr. Li's body is very tired. In addition to sleeping, he works every day. He has been in this state for 2 years. This is why he is very indifferent to other things. The reason? Anyone facing this kind of high-intensity work will not be interested in other things, nor will he have the energy to develop any relationships. Can you understand?" End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 307. Song Jiajia nodded and said, "Well, sometimes I'm tired from work and don't want to do anything. I just want to lie down." She understands so well. And Li Yuan has been there for several years, and she only encounters that state occasionally. Usually the next day, she doesn't want to go to work. Chen Ji continued, "Mainly on the US stock market, Mr. Li has to persist for 7 hours every night, and he can't even eat a full meal. In his words, he must keep his head clear, otherwise one mistake will lead to billions of dollars of losses. He still has serious gastrointestinal problems. He can't eat the food in restaurants outside. If he eats too much, he will feel nauseous. In fact, I don't understand. Mr. Li has been so successful. Why are you still working so hard? He can definitely enjoy life, and there are few people in the world who have more money than him." Song Jiajia murmured to herself, "Yes. Chen Ji, but in the past few days, I have understood that Mr. Li has no sustenance in his soul and can only vent his emotions at work. Because at work, he can pin his emotions on others. For example, he can raise his salary, let employees have happy love and happy families. Let what they don't have be continued in others. He doesn't care whether his life is perfect. Thousands of families can continue that kind of happiness. For him, it's also a different kind of comfort." Song Jiajia. She had no reason not to believe this. Because the policies formulated by Qingtian Group for its employees are really too good to say anything about. They frequently raise wages and take vacations. We never engage in any fancy rituals, and the decisions we make always have clearly visible benefits. Most companies engage in team building. A team building nominally costs millions or tens of millions. How many benefits does it actually bring to employees? If distributed to employees, each employee can get 1 to 2,000 yuan. Isn't this much better than team building? Those team building activities will only become an opportunity for some managers to make money. Li Yuan even had to give formal contracts to auditors and customer service staff, with a starting salary of 7,000. Not to mention in Zhangzhou, you can't find it anywhere in the country. Basically this kind of business is outsourced, even if it is Daibao, Penguin, or even the Byte system. They are pure capitalists who always pursue the ultimate interests. But Li Yuan is different. His purpose of making money seems to be to maintain world peace. Judging from the current situation, Li Yuan spends at least 4 billion more on personnel expenses every year. Qingtian Group only has 120,000 employees, which is equivalent to an extra 30,000 yuan per person per year. If the scale is subsequently expanded, this expenditure will only increase. The more I think about it, the more I feel insignificant in terms of personality." Chen Ji sighed and said, "As a life steward, I really hope that Mr. Li can have a happy life. Although he is forced to be with Miss Zhang now, he is not happy, and Miss Zhang is not happy at all. She won't think about anything for him. It can be seen from the graduation ceremony that Miss Zhang insisted on Mr. Li going over to support her and was forced to let Mr. Li come on stage to give a speech. She did feel happy, but she ignored Mr. Li's feelings. When Song Jiajia heard this, a scene inexplicably appeared in her mind. Li Yuan had no choice but to compromise when facing the proud and domineering young lady, because the other party had a strong background, and he had many enemies in business because of his ideas. Once he does not have the endorsement of the Zhang family, it will be impossible for him to benefit everyone, and he will be jointly suppressed. The more I think about it, the more I feel aggrieved for Li Yuan. He should marry Zhang Yuling, right? Chen Ji nodded. Maybe, after all, they both have children. What? You have children? Song Jiajia began to feel uncomfortable inexplicably. She didn't know where she felt uncomfortable. Chen Ji immediately said, "It's Miss Zhang who wants it. After all, if you don't have children, things won't be that easy. Since having children, Miss Zhang rarely lives here. I can obviously feel that Miss Zhang is gone after that." Mr. Li relaxed a lot. Chen Ji must not keep deceiving her. Some objective facts still need to be incorporated. After all, no one can really shake Zhang Yuling's position. She didn't want to find a partner who thought about replacing Zhang Yuling's position all day long. That would be meaningless to Li Yuan. What she needs is someone who can accept the underground. Although Song Jiajia does not meet this condition. 2. Song Jiajia muttered to herself. Due to political needs, it is normal to have children, but not having children is abnormal. After a while, Chen Ji said, "I want to wake Mr. Li up." She just pressed it casually, and Li Yuan woke up in a daze. Later, Li Yuan said while getting dressed, "Sister Chen, bring me some food after 8 o'clock, not too much." Okay. Then, Song Jiajia watched Li Yuan leave the bedroom without even looking at her. Chen Ji said, "Miss Song, why don't you also try my massage techniques?" "May I?" "Sure." "Then it's troublesome, Sister Chen." Song Jiajia was really interested and felt that Sister Chen's technique was very special. Li Yuan obviously just woke up not long ago. He pressed the button casually, and Li Yuan fell asleep again. And it is very simple to wake up Li Yuan. Soon, she was lying on the bed in her thin underwear. The first time Chen Ji pressed her hand down, she began to relax slowly. There was only one thought in her mind. This is truly a divine enjoyment. No wonder Li Yuan was pushed to sleep. This is the result for everyone. After putting her to sleep, Chen Ji left. Came to Li Yuan's side. Li Yuan said without raising his head, "Why are you fooling this little girl?" He was asleep, but not asleep either. Having been with Chen Ji for too long, I have long known Chen Ji's methods. And gradually developed resistance to Chen Ji's methods. So he heard everything Chen Ji said. "It's not that you can't speak, I'll help you improve your relationship." "Li Yuan, why can't I speak?" "As long as you can speak, regardless of Song Jiajia or Wen Yuxian, you would have won them long ago." "But didn't I capture you?" "Hey, I gave it to you on my own initiative, otherwise." After Chen Ji finished speaking, she came to Li Yuan and was pulled into his arms by Li Yuan. Chen Ji said helplessly, "You really can't speak, you don't know how to please a girl." "But, I don't care, on the contrary, I kind of like your personality." "Well, how long can Song Jiajia sleep?" "It must take more than an hour anyway." "That's enough." Have you ever thought about how great it would be if these were 178 long legs? I just checked it for you. It's top quality in every aspect. Hey, you still said you weren't interested. No one understands Li Yuan better than Chen Ji at this moment. Because the so-called zero-distance contact is already weak. Song Jiajia was probably really tired. After all, the exhaustion accumulated over the past few days, plus being sick, there was no place to release it. I woke up around 10 o'clock at night. I took a look at myself, just wearing underwear. It seemed like no one had come in. When she finished packing and walked out, she passed by the study and vaguely heard Li Yuan cursing something. It was the first time she heard Li Yuan curse, so she tiptoed closer. This group of scoundrels will have their ID cards blocked. From now on, no company under the Qingtian Group will be allowed to provide job opportunities to such people. And you, why is there such a big mistake? Not only this one thing, but also the infection of the Bixen Mall courier. What about the protective measures? You know that because the courier's protective measures are not in place, now has it caused much panic? I have repeatedly warned couriers to take protective measures in place. Even if they are infected themselves, they cannot infect others. This is not playing with probability, this is something that can be done well. Don't say if they don't obey the arrangements, that's also your fault. The situation must be saved. Because of our mistake, hundreds of people were quarantined. We must show our attitude. This is not a child's play. Do you think that 3 or 5 times the salary is so easy to get? Who will not follow the procedures? Come on, get out of here right away. This includes you. If you can't do this well, I have plenty of people here to replace you. The phone was hung up. But Li Yuan made another call. What are you guys doing there for food? There are so many rhythmic things, are you so blind? Thousands of reviewers, even pigs, cannot let such outrageous news ferment out. The reviewers' 3 views are not normal? If they are not normal, I will remove them. There is no reviewer with normal 3 views in the world. Member. Don't talk to me about your nonsense, I have no problem with my brain. I won't talk about you if the comments can't be reviewed, and the creative content can't be reviewed. It's useless for you. As for those serious official media, I don't care who they are. As long as they dare to cause trouble, as long as they dare to interfere with the rhythm, as long as they dare to directly make judgments without verification, they will directly block my account. What can the official do? This is our territory, and whoever comes here must follow our rules. That newsman Suezong, that news sister, they are all banned forever. Individuals will have their ID cards permanently sealed, and the company will directly ban all the anchors under that company's name. And that's Xiao Li to help, and even use me to do it one by one to remind you. You don't read any of the comments, right? Those rhythmic local media, and the leading Sichuan observation, none of them are innocent. Those who just find a video and find someone to dub it, why don't they limit the flow? I browsed for a while and encountered a lot of them. Those who have different views and have a male-female rhythm, regardless of whether they are men or women. Not big internet celebrities, all of them are blocked. Yes, including twin brother Yang. What happened to Jushin Medias? Jushin Medias is still blocked. What? Others eat steamed buns with human blood, but we want to eat them more than we care? Even if we want to eat them, I will eat your wages first, so that each of you will earn less than 5,000 yuan per month. Song Jiajia was frightened when she heard this at the door. Li Yuan had never gotten angry before. These things were considered trivial, and maybe Yu Yu's incident was a little more serious. But in this environment, how can we guarantee that there will be no surprises? There is no doubt that Li Yuan must have been under too much psychological pressure recently, and his whole mood was a little out of control. She slowly left here, and when she came to the living room, she found a rice cooker on the table and a note left by Chenji. Ms. Song, I saw that you were sleeping soundly, so I didn't wake you up. There is chicken soup in the pot. If you wake up, you might want to drink some. I will bring you food tomorrow morning. And, there is some in the cabinet in the living room. All kinds of tea are what Mr. Li likes to drink. If Miss Song likes it, you can get it yourself. Li Yuan was really in an emotional state today because a series of problems broke out today. There was a problem with the scheduling of Bixin Mall, and there was also a problem with Yao Yingsong's production. At present, only 1,000 tons of the 3,000 tons of melt-blown cloth have been used, and it will take at least another month to complete. According to his assumption, it will be almost done in a month and the entire market will calm down. But managing people is not an easy task, especially at this time, when all kinds of people are mixed together, and the level of confusion has increased by several levels. The same goes for Bixin short video. Previously, there was less content and review was easier. Now that there is so much content, it suddenly becomes confusing. A group of people don't even think that they should work hard because their wages have been increased. They still work with the same mentality of getting $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Result. Anyway, he is not afraid. Whoever reviewed it has records here. Even if those people are fired, don't think about how much money they will lose. Most of them have only been employed for a month or two. Today he made his attitude clear, that is, he gave those people an ultimatum. If they don't do things well, he will just pack up and leave. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Come in. After Li Yuan said this, Song Jiajia came over and brought a cup of freshly brewed chrysanthemum tea to Li Yuan. That, I'll talk to them about the heart-to-heart thing later. Don't be angry. Li Yuan let out a long breath and asked, have you eaten? Song Jiajia didn't expect that Li Yuan would still care about her at this time, so she hurriedly said, well, I'll eat it right away. Then let's eat first. You need more rest recently, so don't be busy with work for the time being. It's okay, I'm leaving first. After saying that, Song Jiajia immediately left the study. She also wanted to help a little bit. Besides, it was her responsibility to take care of Bai Xian, but Li Yuan took over at the most difficult time and relieved her pressure. Moreover, Li Yuan Gang was obviously so angry, but after he came, he didn't show any emotion at all. I couldn't help but think of what Chen Ji said. Li Yuan was just not good at expressing himself. In fact, his attitude could be seen in many details. Thanks. Li Yuan's voice came from behind, and Song Jiajia's heart tightened. Then it turned into a warm current. He is really gentle. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 308. Song Jiajia ate something, then sat on the sofa with her notebook in her arms, and logged into her BusinessManagement backend. The management of each department was immediately organized into a discussion group and began to solve the current problems. In fact, these problems are not a problem at all on other platforms. If you don't spread rumors, where will the traffic come from? If you don't spread rumors, how can it reach the hearts of the people? Eye-catching. But Li Yuan didn't allow it. What Li Yuan doesn't allow is what she doesn't allow. Jushin Media is also blocked even if it is owned by itself. After listening to Chen Ji's words, she had a clearer understanding of Li Yuan's philosophy. Before, she only thought that Li Yuan wanted to serve customers, build a reputation, and improve the entire internet environment. Now it seems that Li Yuan still wants to serve his own employees so that their employees can get more wages. The former can be said to serve the future, but the latter is really just a pattern. A pattern without any selfishness. She was in good spirits today and had slept enough during the day. After a few hours of deep sleep, all her fatigue was gone. But she was busy from 11 o'clock to about 5 o'clock in the morning. She was constantly using her brain and staring at the news. She was still tired. Glancing in the direction of the study, Li Yuan was still busy. She has been busy longer than herself, and she remains in this state every day. It seems that the stock market has been closed. Why hasn't he come out yet? Thinking of this, Song Jiajia came to the study and knocked on the door again. When she heard Li Yuan's weak response, she immediately opened the door and walked in. Then, he saw Li Yuan sitting on a chair, sweating on his forehead, as if he was holding back the pain. She hurried over and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Li Yuan waved his hand and said, "It's okay." He was just hungry, so he had a full meal after 3 o'clock, and then 2 simple bites after 8 o'clock, until now. The main reason is that I didn't eat breakfast yesterday, and I exercised with Chenji again, so I consumed more than usual, otherwise I wouldn't feel so uncomfortable. When my stomach is empty, I feel a little flustered, similar to symptoms of hypoglycemia. I'm supporting you. Song Jiajia stretched out her hand, but Li Yuan refused and said, "I'm fine again. I'll just have something to eat later." "Then what do you want to eat?" "I'll call Sister Chen. She's already up. She'll be here in half an hour. Just wait." "But now you." Song Jiajia thought of Chenji's previous words that Li Yuan couldn't have a full meal because he had to trade US stocks, and the opening time of US stocks was particularly long. The A-share market only lasts for 4 or 5 hours. You can rest and eat a little in the middle, and you will be almost digested by the time the market opens in the afternoon. But the US stock market is not good. Once you eat, your brain will be slow for half an hour to an hour. After such a long time, major problems are likely to occur. Li Yuan said, "I'm fine now. You go out first. Just call me when the food is delivered. I'll sit down for a while." Song Jiajia was speechless. She doesn't care much about people either. Li Yuan smiled and said, "I just took a look at the announcement from Bixin." "Was it you?" That means we have similar ideas. Once BusinessManagement gets on the right track, I can safely leave it to you." Leave it to me? Of course, my main business still has to be on Qingtian Capital. By the way, Jushin Media's IPO has been approved, but due to some things, the listing time has been delayed. It is estimated that it will have to wait until June. You can also be regarded as Jushin Media. This is my first employee. I have done a lot for Jushin Media. I promised you shares before, and I haven't forgotten. I left you 5%. Jushin Media's IPO was 6 billion, and the market gave an estimate of 30 billion. Value. Song Jiajia. Then the shares left to her by the company are worth 1.5 billion? In just 2 years, she achieved the worth of the entire Song family for more than 20 years. Before the Song's shares were listed, the Song family didn't have so much money at all. Before she could speak, Li Yuan continued, "There is also Bixin, which will also give you 5% of the incentive equity. Although there are still many uncertainties in Bixin's listing. There is no profit in comparing one's heart, or even a loss. Either go public abroad or log on to the domestic gem." Li Yuan definitely wants to log into the motherboard. It seems that it is not that difficult at present. To log on to the main board, you need to make a profit of more than 10 million for 3 consecutive years. If Bixin wants to make a profit, it can be said that it is far away. Song Jiajia took a deep breath and said, "Forget it, I don't deserve that kind of treatment." What is the concept of Bixin now? The daily activity is tens of millions every day, and he is truly top-notch on the internet. Douyin's current market valuation is $150 billion, and Bixin is worth at least $30 billion. This is just the beginning. If the concept can be implemented all the time, then Bixin has unlimited potential, and Douyin will only become a gathering place for liars. By then there will be no serious users left. How much will it be worth? However, ByteDance also has TK, which is very popular abroad and has a higher value than Douyin in China. Li Yuan asked doubtfully, "Mr. Song, something's wrong with you. Who doesn't work based on salary? You don't want the salary that's delivered to you. Well, it's too much. My work is nothing compared to yours, and I'm not qualified to get that much. Of course Song Jiajia wanted to make money, and she dared to ask for it from Jushin Media. Anyway, Li Yuan didn't care much about Jushin Media's affairs. But the comparison is different. Li Yuan paid such a high price, not just for fun, nor is it optional. It must be one of the most important projects next. She knows one thing very well, that is, it is best not to have any relatives in the management position of a large company. If you make a mistake like that, it will be inconvenient to criticize, internal power will be dispersed for various reasons, and the probability of something going wrong is high. She can work for Li Yuan, but once she becomes a partner with him, it is best for the two of them to remain partners for the rest of their lives and not think about anything else, otherwise something will happen. Currently, she doesn't want to become Li Yuan's partner. I got a lot, are you sure you don't want it? Well, don't. Song Jiajia answered simply. Li Yuan sighed and said, then it seems that I am about to lose a compatible partner. Huh? Why do you say that? Obviously, even if you don't want the equity, it means you don't want to work here for too long and may leave at any time. That's not what I meant. Then what reason is there for you to refuse such a good thing? I think. Song Jiajia hesitated. Li Yuan looked at her and waited for a while before Song Jiajia said, why don't you wait any longer? What are you waiting for? I do not know yet. Li Yuan said, okay, let's make a decision before May and handle it together then. Well. Song Jiajia feels that this time is too short, it will be February soon. There are only 3 months left. After a while, Chen Ji finally delivered breakfast. Song Jiajia found that Li Yuan was completely different from before after eating. The richest man in the world has to go hungry every day. It is estimated that many people will feel more balanced after seeing it. Being hungry is very common. Sometimes you are busy at work, sometimes you don't have anything to eat in the car, and some of you want to save money. But compared to Li Yuan, who is hungry every day, it is still rare. After eating, Li Yuan waited for half an hour and went to the study to make a few calls to his family to inquire about the situation. Some of the 13 Taibao have already been tricked. After all, we are in Zhangzhou, and we have met some people more or less before. Fortunately for Zhang Yuanqiao, he lived in Li Yuan's hometown and had little chance of contacting outsiders. Otherwise, given Zhang Yuanqiao's body, it would be hard to predict what the consequences would be if he was attacked. At least Zhang Yuling was frightened when he learned that someone from the 13 Taibao had been tricked. Naturally, I am also lucky. I am lucky to have brought Grandpa here, and with Li Yuan's advanced layout, the entire village is now safe. Many people can realize that something is wrong with Li Yuan, even if he is good at stock trading, the more they look at it, the more they seem to know it in advance. But it can only be attributed to his sense of monsters, he can't promote feudal superstition, right? Although Li Yuan is too evil, many things can be explained by unintentional interference. After all, Li Yuan is obviously trying to build a circle around him. The only flaw lies in the 3,000 tons of melt-blown cloth. In fact, it can be explained that melt-blown cloth can do a lot of things, such as various environmentally friendly materials and various filter elements. So this is not really evidence at all. But insiders like Tang Jianjun and others will start to pay attention to this matter to see if Li Yuan will have any flaws next. If not, it can basically be determined that the melt-blown cloth incident was pure luck. Because melt-blown cloth has a short shelf life, although there is a lot of domestic production, it is still difficult to meet the needs of 1.4 billion people. Domestic production of melt-blown cloth is only about 50 tons per day, which cannot meet demand in the short term. Li Yuan's 3,000 tons can be regarded as a solution to the big problem. Otherwise, he would have to buy it from abroad at a high price, and the efficiency would not be that high. After Li Yuan made the call, Chenji came in to help him clean up the study. After seeing the cup of chrysanthemum tea, he said, "When did you learn to make tea by yourself?" Li Yuan said, "Song Jia gave it to me." "You have led her astray. She doesn't even want to give her the equity I want to give her." When Chenji heard this, she laughed. "She is really willing to give up. She is indeed a simple little girl. If it were her, she would get what she needed and do what she needed to do. Just be sensible and don't worry so much. You should find an opportunity to tell her clearly, so that others will not hate you in the future." "Oh, you obviously have the opportunity to make it clear, why don't you tell me yourself? Besides, what if she holds a grudge against me? Isn't it still you? You will protect me, right?" Yes." Chenji felt funny inexplicably when she saw Li Yuan's entangled look. "Are you really stupid? Why should she hate me? I just gave her a step down. The choice is always in her hands. She should thank me in the future. Seriously, if you didn't for a little money, no matter how handsome you are, you will only become the emotional plaything of other women in this life. How stupid." End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 309. Chenji told the truth, and Li Yuan agreed. If he really had the gene to understand emotions, he wouldn't have struggled so much in his previous life. This life is nothing more than not following the path of life, and there is essentially no difference. After waiting for a while, Li Yuan went to sleep. He didn't know anything about what happened outside. Chenji got Song Jia a mobile phone and chatted with her for a while, from work to life, and then to work. Managing a large company is very difficult. First of all, you need decision-making ability. People under your command will report new projects and directions every day. As a leader, you can make mistakes, but you can't always be wrong. At the same time, one must also have the ability to discover opportunities and be decisive enough to tilt resources. The second is management and scheduling ability, which requires a combination of experience and talent. Most people have no concept of scheduling in their minds, just like some people can't understand geometry anyway. The last point is endurance. No matter what happens, getting angry with employees or even swearing at them is pointless. In a big company, it can be said that there are bad things happening every day. If you can't help it, some of them are sent to you out of anger, which will only bring down the working atmosphere of the entire company. Managers are basically talented. At least Song Jia has encountered many difficulties so far, but she has never lost her temper. Chenji gradually understood why Li Yuan said Song Jia was a very good general manager. It's not that Song Jia is so outstanding or outstanding. In fact, she looks like a pretty ordinary manager. But she is young and she learns quickly. From a newly graduated college student, in just 2 years, I have been able to work in a large company like Bixen with ease. The companies in Li Yuan's hands all have one characteristic, that is, there are many employees at the bottom and few employees at the middle and upper levels. He has to do the work that can be outsourced. A delivery person who can be streamlined must have a profit. Other companies use as little as possible for low-level employees, and squeeze working time as much as possible. Bixen Mall only has dozens of warehousing centers across the country, and its current business locations are only at the county level. There are 1,300 counties, logistics and distribution, with an average of 80 people in each county. It has spread so much in 1 year that it can almost catch up with the top logistics companies. Even for companies such as Ito and Sto, over the years, their business outlets have covered villages and towns, with only 300,000 people. The most important thing is that these are franchise systems, which means that the company does not need to configure 5 insurances and 1 housing fund. The salary has nothing to do with the company, and the franchisees are responsible for it themselves. Their cost is far different from Bixen Mall. In other words, JD.com's expenditure costs are higher, but the monthly salary of Bixen Mall's delivery personnel is basically $12,000, leading the entire industry. My work intensity has been high recently, but my usual work intensity is very low. In Song Jiajia's words, now the focus is on screening, especially for basic positions. The cultivation of service awareness requires a process, from auditors to manual customer service to delivery personnel. Employees who have no service concept will part ways with them sooner or later, and it will only take half a year at most. It was impossible to achieve perfection in the beginning, but with Li Yuan's huge expenditure, he could do it sooner or later. If she can't do it, it's a matter of her ability. The hardest part of any job is always the salary. The vast majority of people cannot do a good job because their wages are not adequate. There are also some individuals who have no work attitude at all, and those are the ones who need to be screened out. Song Jiajia's words were very superficial. She only said some superficial contents, which surprised Chen Ji. She didn't believe that Li Yuan had communicated this to her. Li Yuan didn't have that much time and had to explain everything. It can only be said that her own cognition fits Li Yuan's thinking. In Chen Ji's view, neither Yu Chenguang nor Ho Wenbin have this ability. But they are born with good foundation. Li Yuan needs them somewhere, and with Zhang Yuling's presence, they have a stage. After the chat, it was time for Song Jiajia to go to bed, and Chen Ji left. Just as she got home, her phone rang. After she got through, her face lit up. Anna Shen gave birth successfully. And she's a daughter. There is no doubt that this is the best result, and she thinks Li Yuan will definitely like it. There is no man who is not a slave to his daughter. I definitely don't have a name yet, I'm waiting for Li Yuankai. After Li Yuan woke up, he also received the news. After chatting with Anna Shen for a while and expressing some concern, the topic of naming the child came up, but Li Yuan didn't bother. Because so far, he hasn't actually given the child a name. Although Anna Shen was a little disappointed, she really hoped to let Li Yuan choose a name himself. Finally, on the phone, Xu Yanlin took her to discuss with Li Yuan. Mainly she discussed it with Xu Yanlin. Originally, according to Li Yuan's wishes, the child's surname was Shen, but Xu Yanlin insisted on having the surname Li. Finally, he was named Li Siking, and Li Yuan did not object. After all, I have said before that I will not interfere. Before you know it, it will be the 3rd day of the Lunar New Year, and in 7 days, the A-share market will open. On Bixen's side, Song Jiajia is rectifying, so he doesn't have to worry too much, but on the A-share side, there is a big problem, because the foreseeable Black Swan event has already broken out, and everyone can predict the market trend after the market opens. Even the overall economy will be hit hard. China is another superpower with a population of 1.4 billion, and its economy is the lifeblood of everyone. No one in the world can currently achieve common prosperity for 1.4 billion people. China's current large scale can only ensure poverty alleviation. The poverty line is a very low standard, and there is still a long way to go before becoming well off. Most of the members of Qingtian Capital breathed a sigh of relief and praised Li Yuan in the comment area of his social account for having a good rest and successfully avoiding this black swan incident. With a smile, I looked for comments from those who held positions in the comment area, and then asked them whether they were cold or not. Of course, many people realize that this matter is not unsolvable. Li Yuan only needs to step forward to pull a shares back from the edge of the cliff. But countless people have left messages. Several days have passed since the incident, and Li Yuan has made no move. He will definitely not make any moves, because US stocks are attracting capital from all over the world. Even if there is a global black swan event, The US stock market has not fallen much. When they place short orders, they are just expanding the bubble, and the market is still attractive. Along with the slight decline, some international capital will feel that an opportunity has come. Therefore, there is a high probability that some of the hot money of international capital in A shares will be withdrawn on the first day that A shares open. Li Yuan has washed his hands in A shares several times. It was washed once at the end of 2017. It was washed by the market throughout 2018. In 2019, Li Yuan was washed twice in a row. The first time was through raising a sign, and the second time was a successful change of hands. The hot money from foreign investors in A shares has almost been completely laundered. However, there are still hundreds of billions of deep-rooted funds buried inside, and no matter how much money is washed, it will be difficult to wash them out. However, that kind of money is not considered hot money and is of great benefit to the stability of the overall market. Unless they wait until the US dollar raises interest rates, those people will leave. Li Yuan would not move for the first 2 days. Although the next day would be a good opportunity, he didn't care. That hot money cannot be washed away, and they may earn tens or hundreds of billions if it changes hands, which will cause even more trouble in the future. He now holds 400 billion in medical equipment, mostly his own money. When he came to the study, he saw the documents sent by Meng Jiangguo, mainly the annual report of Qingtian Capital. Qingtian Capital's annual report is quite beautiful. First, a management fee of $450 million was collected from the GDI fund. In fact, the total management fee of the 4 funds was $14 billion, the subscription fee was $2.5 billion, and the handling fee was $6.4 billion. These add up to $25.9 billion. In the end, Li Yuan borrowed 200 billion and made a net profit of 80 billion. Therefore, the entire company's revenue reached 0.59 billion. Expenditure costs. Apart from staff and office space costs, there is almost nothing else. The operating cost of an app is only over 10 million. If the arrears are not included, the overall net profit is more than 100 billion, and the typical A-share net profit ranks first, exceeding Mutai's more than 80 billion. According to Meng Jiangguo, because there are still liabilities, it does not need to be considered a profit. It was just rejected by Li Yuan. Consider it a profit. However, Li Yuan reinvested the profits, so he does not have to pay taxes this year. But the dividend money will not be small. Keep part of it as employees' social security reserves, and all the rest will be paid out. Because money is needed in many places. Meng Jiangguo needs it, and they hold 20% of the shares. It's okay on my side, but I also need to come up with some money. Of course there are also shareholders. Mr. Meng, draw up a dividend plan and distribute no less than 70% of the net profit as dividends. Then report it. If you need the money, borrow it from the bank first. He has already invested the money. He will first find the bank to get the money to distribute dividends, and then he will pay it back later. This will definitely have an impact on the follow-up, but Meng Jiangguo has no objection at all. The opinions he gave were only from the perspective of a general manager and considered for the company. Li Yuan's decision is the final decision. Okay. Based on this calculation, I am afraid that the dividend will be around 70 billion. According to Qingtian Capital's current market value of 400 billion, the dividend is 18 points. This is extremely scary. Mutai has a market value of more than 1 trillion, but it only pays out dividends of more than 20 billion every year, and the dividends are around a certain point. This is enough to attract countless funds. Qingtian Capital actually wants to distribute 70 billion in dividends in one go? This is simply. So far, there is no A-share company with a dividend of 70 billion in a single year. The 4 major banks only distribute dividends of 20 to 30 billion each year. In the most recent year, some banks distributed 40 billion in dividends. Meng Jiangguo can already imagine what the scene will be like after the dividend plan is announced. 18 o'clock. Even if it requires X rights, it is a dream for big funds. Big money is unwilling to take risks. Even if it is stable for 3 or 4 points every year, they will flock to it. The only difference between Qingtian Capital and Mutai is that Mutai's performance is very stable and has grown steadily year by year. Even if the dividend is very low, it is very valuable overall to extend the timeline, even if the stock price has exceeded 1,000. Is Qingtian Capital stable? The financial sector is not very stable, but for now, Qingtian Capital is definitely an exception. In the 3 years since its establishment, Qingtian Capital's net profits have skyrocketed every year. It rose from more than 1 billion to more than 10 billion, and then directly broke through to more than 100 billion. 10 times a year. If this growth rate continues, wouldn't Qingtian Capital's net profit exceed 1 trillion yuan this year? Meng Jiangguo thought of this number and quickly shook his head, feeling that he was crazy. Net profit exceeds 1 trillion? There is only one listed company in the world that can do this, and that is Aramco. There is a small and micro enterprise in China whose net profit exceeds 1 trillion. Apple's annual net profit is only more than 300 billion, so why does Qingtian Capital have it? Meng Jiangguo believes that as long as this performance can be stabilized, Qingtian Capital's market value can easily exceed 1 trillion. Thinking back to the 5 million dividend rights that I bought with my nose pinched, it suddenly became fragrant. Because based on the total share capital of Qingtian Capital, there are 100 billion shares and a dividend of 70 billion, with an average dividend of 70 cents per share. And how much does it cost? Peace. 70% return rate. And it can't only pay dividends this year, but also pay dividends every year in the future. Even if the performance is a little worse, the market price has doubled in 2 years. After all, even if you leave your job, you can still sell the dividend rights to the company at the original price. Grass. He now understood why Yu bought it without hesitation after hearing the news. I also understand why Guo Meng would rather sell his family's house to raise the 5 million. They understand Li Yuan very well. Li Yuan will not set a trap for his own people. It seems that all the employees who followed Li Yuan bought it at the beginning, but some new employees who came later did not buy it. If they knew about this dividend plan. This is more cost-effective than Huai's dividend rights. Huai's dividend rights are 10 yuan per share. Generally, one share can earn more than 1 yuan per year, which is a profit of more than 10 points. Qingtian Capital directs 70 points. Although he was not particularly short of money, he was shocked to receive 5 to 6 million this year. At his age, he has already lost the opportunity to make money, but he can still make mistakes. If he comes a little later, he may miss this opportunity, because the next time Li Yuan takes out the dividend rights will be a few years later. He immediately called Yu and told him about it. Yu acted very calmly. Based on his understanding of Yu, more than 3 million should be a lot of money for you. Yu shouldn't be so calm. Lao Yu, what's wrong with you? Are you in a bad mood? No, it's just more than 3 million, it's just small money to hang out with the boss. It's normal to divide 30 to 50 million a year. You guys, do you know what a dividend of 30 to 50 million means? We only have 5 million shares of dividend rights, and we need a dividend of 600 billion to reach 30 million. When will Qingtian Capital be able to pay a dividend of 600 billion? Haha, I don't know this. Yu didn't say anything because he knew better than anyone how much money Li Yuan had earned in the past few years. Qingtian Capital is just a small head. The real big head is with Qingtian Group. End of chapter. They posted it upside down, and I'm actually not satisfied with it. Author, Lao He. Chapter 310. Yu doesn't have time to get the Qingtian Group's annual report now, because the scheduling of Bixen Mall is enough to make him overwhelmed. Due to insufficient previous preparations, all the stock was consumed in about 10 days. At present, emergency dispatch is very costly and difficult. He became more and more aware of Li Yuan's layout. Li Yuan used Qingtian Group as a backstop to connect all the companies under his name. At present, Qingtian Group has a lot of money in fixed assets, among other things. Commercial plazas and hospitals invested in Qinghe County. Tens of thousands of tons of lithium carbonate and dozens of tons of gold. There is still some melt-blown cloth left, but Li Yuan most likely won't sell it. In the past 2 days, melt-blown cloth has been hyped to 500,000 per ton. Don, who produces melt-blown fabrics in China, is said to have been on the phone all the time. Although Li Yuan generously donated a large number of masks, the actual demand is still quite large, and it seems that it cannot be solved in the short term. Li Yuan's 3,000 tons can only maintain short-term market balance. Anyway, there is nothing else available on the market at this stage, and they have been robbed in advance. Li Yuan's behavior only hit a large number of hoarders and had minimal impact on the entire industry. Once you need to wear a mask when traveling, the average person has to consume one every day. Even if there are only 300 million people in the country every day, the initial cost of each mask is only 2 yuan. Calculating this, it is still a market worth tens of billions. But if Li Yuan does this, the overall profit will definitely drop. Yu looked at the empty warehouse and was wondering where to buy goods. At present, all the warehouses are low on goods, only the liquor warehouse always has them. After all, if there is too much stock, it will not be sold out for a while. Last year, wine sales were less than 3 billion. Li Yuan tried his best to reduce the burden on Bixen Mall. For example, the logistics is independently operated. At present, Bixen Mall only needs to reduce the burden on traffic drainage and operating costs, and there are almost no other costs. If you want to be competitive with the goods of Bixen Mall, there is only one way, and that is to make no profit. There is really no profit at all. The purchase price is the same as the selling price. The entire logistics cost is covered by Qingtian Group. And there is another disadvantage, that is, the products in Bixen Mall are not complete. A lot of things are missing. For example, Nike, Adidas, and a series of fashion brands were directly banned by Li Yuan due to cotton issues. Even searching for related terms in Bixen Mall will jump directly to the national position. There are also a certain 3 squirrels who maliciously exaggerate Chinese people, a certain Orion and the Chinese company products behind them, all of which have been included in the banned list. The list of prohibited goods on Bixen Mall is several times longer than the list of sanctioned entities in the United States. Many big brands are restricted. If you want to supplement the supply with the same type of goods, you can only subsidize related companies. Otherwise, those companies have no brand power, no competitiveness, and cannot produce goods at all. Not only this, but there is another reason. Many domestic brands do not accept Bixen Mall's pricing or after-sales requirements from Bixen Mall, so they cannot get the goods. At present, Bixen Mall is very deformed. Although it has all categories of products, there are very few products with real brand power. Qingtian Group is currently forced to invest in nearly 200 production and processing companies and is losing money to maintain operations. But there is also a benefit, that is, some domestic companies have slowly stood up after receiving support. This time, Li Yuan spent more than 30 billion on advertising, which gradually brought some unknown products into everyone's sight. If Li Yuan had come up with the short video and shopping mall earlier, he would definitely have been attacked by other capital. It's too late to snipe now, because the popularity has already been eliminated. However, for now, Bixen Mall can barely remain competitive by relying on losses. Once Li Yuan cannot bear the losses of billions or even tens of billions every year, Bixen Mall may be finished soon. The same is true for Bixen short videos. It has just developed and is in the gold rush stage. When the VIP account level becomes higher and higher and everyone has no money to harvest, Vixen's content department will also suffer huge losses. Fighting for territory with big capital is not an easy task in itself. Usability in this area was limited and it was impossible for him to expand his territory for Li Yuan, so he only did the tasks assigned by Li Yuan. Li Yuan asked him to take risks to support the operation of logistics. Even though he knew that the risks were high and he would be scolded if he failed, he still took the job. Sure enough, something went wrong in the end and he was scolded. Although he is tired, he is not infected so far. He comes into contact with so many people every day, and he is fine. This time was his first test after joining the Qingtian group, and he had to do it hard. Even before he came, he was prepared to die on the job. After the call with Meng Jiangguo, he called Li Yuan. Boss, in the past 10 days, we have delivered 230 million pieces of goods, of which 200 million are still being packed. However, there are still more than 100 million orders that cannot be fulfilled. We have insufficient reserves of agricultural products and the number of masks cannot keep up. More than 200 million items have been delivered, which is equivalent to each courier delivering 200 items per day. This is already an overloaded workload. Basically, they are all large items weighing 20 to 30 kilograms, and it is very difficult to deliver them. At present, couriers work about 14 hours a day. If they get 4 times the salary will be 48,000 yuan. The final salary should be around 40,000 yuan. Most people are still fighting hard, and no one dares to risk taking the initiative to get infected. Who knows how serious the sequelae are, and you may even die. It is not cost-effective at all to be lazy or to receive a consolation payment of 10,000 yuan. It's okay. Let's deliver the order in hand first. As for the goods, I'll figure it out. Okay, boss, you should also pay attention to your health. It has been really serious recently. There have been 500 couriers left, and the manpower is being replenished very slowly. Ah, you too. Li Yuan hung up Yu's call. In fact, he is very clear about the situation of domestic agricultural and sideline products, with serious overcapacity. There is nothing we can do about this. After all, it is a big country with a population of 1.4 billion. If everyone has a good job, what's the point? All the money in the world has to be made by China. Those developed countries that have enjoyed the dividends of the war will not accept this situation at all and can only suppress it frantically. But now, it is difficult to transport agricultural and sideline products and distribute them to every household. In fact, this is really a good opportunity, because most families now cook at home, which can be regarded as a time when the value of agricultural and sideline products can be maximized. Whether they are growers or breeders, most of them can barely maintain their capital and occasionally make a profit for a year or two. Then a lot of competitors will appear later, until the prices are driven to losses. In the end, we either gave up or switched to growing food. Profit from growing grain is limited, but the good thing is that the state covers the bottom line. Li Yuan made a few calls, probably because he wanted to get a batch of goods. He didn't want any special approval. He just asked the local government to purchase it and bring the goods over. The official came forward to do it, and he was responsible for paying for it. Loss is inevitable, not to mention losses, there will definitely be a layer of exploitation in the middle. It's just that if he finds someone to come forward, fewer people will be exploited. For example, if the value is 100 million, under normal circumstances, it would be exploited by 10 million, but now they don't dare to. At most, they can only exploit 1 or 2 million and then stop. This time, Li Yuan asked for 2 billion worth of goods. Even if he was trying to bring some warmth to the growers who were trapped at home, He couldn't do anything about the involution because his stall hadn't been opened yet and the relevant foreshadowing hadn't been laid yet. Apart from finance, the only industry in his hands is that social media can make a little money. From the current point of view, the feedback is definitely enough, but it is still a little far from his goal. Strictly speaking, the time has not come. You have to hold on a little longer until the situation becomes more chaotic. The only thing he has to do is to make a lot of money before the situation becomes even more chaotic. Playing in industry is no different from playing in finance. The reason why Bixen is so popular right now is that almost no other platforms dare to deliver. After all, they don't raise wages, and the couriers are not stupid, so why should they fight for your measly salary? If you really want to fight, wouldn't it be better to join Bixen? So either it is not delivered, or if it is delivered, it is transported to one place and dropped off directly. By Xin means taking chestnuts from the fire, paying a high price for services, and waiting for subsequent rewards. Li Yuan doesn't believe that bullshit user habits can compare to sincerity. The service in the future will definitely not be a fraud model, but a sincere model. He believes that no one can refuse cost-effective and sincere service. If he fails, then he will turn around and leave, giving up all those bullshit dreams. Because if he fails, there are only two possibilities: either he will be targeted by the authorities, which he cannot resist, or he will be targeted by the masses. Everyone does not care about the behavior of those brands that humiliate them, and is willing to be someone else's licking dog no matter what. No matter which step it is, there is no need to stay. Chen Ji brought the food and he walked out of the study. But after coming out, I was a little surprised to see Song Jiajia waking up in the living room. Because Song Jiajia changed her clothes, a black one-piece high-slit skirt, paired with a beige fluffy jacket. She has always walked in a sporty and casual style, and this is the first time I saw her wearing a sexy style. You must know that back in Qinghe County, she came to the banquet wrapped in a big down jacket. On weekdays, you can only see some figures in summer, because in summer she is either in a t-shirt or a shirt. She suddenly became sexy, the advantages of those legs were too obvious. She is 10 centimeters taller than Chen Ji. Even standing a little further away from her, she looks taller. Li Yuan took another look, and Chen Ji said with a smile, "Mr. Li almost wants to put his eyes on Miss Song. Miss Song just said that this dress is not good looking." Song Jiajia really didn't dare to look at Li Yuan. It was the first time she wore such clothes and she was a little uncomfortable. Li Yuan's face turned dark immediately. This Chen Ji. When that eye sees him, he wants to stick to it. After all, it's not like I've never seen it before. Zhang Yuling also has long legs. Where did you get the clothes? Li Yuan asked after sitting down. Song Jiajia said sheepishly, "Sister Chen gave it to me. She said it was a larger model that she bought before." "Oh, it's winter. Although there is floor heating, your body has not recovered yet, so you need to keep warm." Li Yuan showed normal concern, and then Chen Ji immediately said next to him, "Oh, why am I not as careful as Mr. Li? I didn't even think of this just now." At this moment, Li Yuan wished he could just pull Chen Ji over and teach her a lesson in front of Song Jiajia. Song Jiajia kept her head down while eating, completely led into a certain rhythm by Chen Ji, unable to extricate herself. It was just a normal meal, but Chen Ji suddenly created an ambiguous atmosphere. Li Yuan finished his meal quickly and then returned to the study. After a while, Chen Ji came. Li Yuan said, "You have deceived this little girl into a fool. After all, you are the vice president of Bixen. Don't make her fall in love, okay? Who will do the work for me then?" Chen Ji said, "There is no conflict. If she doesn't work, I will teach her in the future. They are all working anyway. What kind of work is not the same?" Chen Ji added, "You haven't seen how shy she is. She hasn't been this shy before, right? I know her character very well. In fact, as long as you take a little initiative, I think you can win tonight. Li Yuan, are you instigating this? What kind of person do I, the richest man, want? Do you need this trick? Chen Ji said angrily, yes, yes, you are the richest man in the world, but money is not everything. Only women like us who are greedy for money can be interested in your money and future. You are serious. Young girls are all judged by their character and charisma, right? Are you demeaning yourself? What are you disparaging? I am this kind of person. There is no rule in the world that says people like me cannot exist. Everyone is here for life, but people like us are more straightforward. Any relationship will develop in the end. The level of money and power is nothing more than that some people are easily satisfied and some people are not. Then why do you have to get involved in this matter? Song Jiajia is indeed a bit stunning, but Li Yuan has never been dependent on someone. He's just greedy, that's all. Normal men will be greedy. I don't want you to experience the feeling of falling in love. It feels like you have never been in love before. Life should be more colorful. After experiencing sweetness, you will not be so cold towards talents in the future. I've been in love. Those are all juniors. If your strength is there, even if your feelings are not in place, the other party will not reject you. Theoretically, I am stronger now, and it will be harder for others to reject me. Yes, it is precisely because you are strong that you have the opportunity to come into contact with people like Song Jiajia. Otherwise, even if you are the reincarnation of the love saint and you are full of sweet words, you will not have the chance to pursue a girl like Song Jiajia. The reality is that, Song Jiajia is not only a rich woman, but also a super beauty, and a strong woman. Please, put aside your identity. How many boys in the world can catch up with her? She is not blind, she is a beggar. You also know how to compare. You are crushed by others in every aspect. Why should they like you? So what? Be proactive tonight and don't let my efforts go to waste. Li Yuan nodded, okay, I'll wait for you. Why are you going to my place? Chen Ji has been too restless these days. End of chapter.